Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is the second part of What If Naruto Awakened Gojo Power during the Chunin exams. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Naruto sat on top of his father's head on the Hokage monument with a bored expression. Lots have happened since the end of the Chunin exams and subsequent invasion led by Orochimaru of the Sannin. There was the sounds of repairs all over the village. Not so much damage was done that the village was unable to operate normally. But many businesses and homes were destroyed in the fighting. Overall death tolls were still being counted, but thankfully the civilian numbers were mitigated quite well thanks to the actions of the rapid response Chunin force. Genin, Chunin and Jonin deaths were less than expected. 4 Jonin, 94 Chunin and 11 Genin. For assault force from the Sand and Sound number will over 2,000 altogether, only suffering 108 deaths defending the village was very impressive. Naruto surmised that the actions of himself, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Guy, and Sasuke did the most as they took out the biggest players or defended important points in the village. Unfortunately, all wasn't amazing. Orochimaru isn't dead. The fact that his curse seal is still active on Sasuke, and Anko Mitarashi shows that. So the old man's insane jutsu was only really useful for ending the fight and disrupting the snake's control over the first and second. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the thought. The third Hokage was comatose since his use of Requiem of the Sage. One of, if not the only S-class plus jutsu in existence, something that even a young Hiruzen struggled to use, much less the old man he is today. Based on the reports of the head doctor, the old man would be lucky to retain use of his chakra, but his days as an active S-class combatant were over. Naruto didn't want to think about the odds of his survival if there wasn't something done about his coma soon. No one in the village has the ability to heal him. Head Dr. Tori was only able to ease his pain. The head of the ANBU's medical squad Carp was similarly unable to do much. I can only think of one person on the planet that would have a chance. And wouldn't ya know it, it's the last of the Sannin, Tsunade Senju. Therein lay the problem, Naruto thought with an angry glare. With the third in the current situation, the decisions were being made by the advisory council. Made up of the major clan heads, Anbu commander, Jonin commander, and the third's old teammates. Seems with the god of shinobi out of the game, hidden agendas were coming out. All of them can go die in a hole. I'm giving Jiraiya till the sun sets before I go after his stupid teammate. It was earlier during a troubling conversation with the council Naruto confirmed his earlier thoughts of them. Earlier in the council chamber, Naruto stood in a large room which was occupied by the current council who has been deciding the fate of the village. It was lacking any real personality. Torches lined the walls, no windows and not much to sit on really, random chairs in the room with some occupied, others not. Clan heads for the Akamichi, Yamanaka, Hyuga, Inuzuka, Aburame, and Nara were sat in various positions around the room. Anbu Commander Lion was sitting crisscross on the ceiling behind Naruto, while Jonin Commander and Nara clan head Shikaku Nara was standing in front of Naruto with his arms crossed. Oh, and the three idiots were here. At a high-rise table were the three former teammates of the third, Kaharu, Homura and finally Danzo. Despite not coming from any real reputable clans, or having any remaining power beyond a typical Jonin, from his six eyes observation, though Danzo was interesting, they certainly held themselves above everyone here. Naruto didn't hold back, he walked right in and said it. I'm not here to waste time with old fogies like all of you. Insolence! Shouted Hiashi. Naruto glared at him with glowing eyes that silenced him right away. I'm here to tell you that with the old man in his current state he needs the medical attention of Tsunade Senju, interrupted Danzo with a passive expression gathering the room's attention. Do not think your new bloodline makes you the only one capable of thought. She is the only one alive with the expertise to potentially heal Lord Hokage. Lord. This guy hates the old man's guts. I've known that since I was 7. Naruto thought with a slight narrow of his eyes. Great. Then we're done here. I'll leave right now to hunt her down and bring her back. Naruto said with a grin and went to turn around. Yamanaka Inoichi spoke up before he could fully turn around. You believe that the best course of action is to bring back a traitor? He asked with a glare. Naruto turned and looked at him for a moment with a frown, but it was Choza Akamichi who spoke up. Inoichi, Tsunade isn't a traitor. Inoichi turned to his former teammate, of course she is. She abandoned this village after the Second War. How many have died because she ran away? Lady Tsunade's disappearance is and has been excused by Lord Third. Interjected the distorted voice of Anbu Commander Lion from the ceiling. Then what's the problem? Asked Naruto. This whole conversation reeked of politics, and he truly couldn't care less. The problem, you shitty fucking twerp. Shouted Sume Inuzuka from her position sitting atop her dog partner, is that many won't, nor should they take kindly to that woman's presence back in the village. Like they said. Who cares? Shouted Naruto while glaring at the council, I could care less about any of that. I'm going to bring her back to heal the old man, anything after that he can decide. He said before turning to Shikaku, I wasn't asking to leave or asking to bring her back. I was notifying you as a courtesy. A courtesy? Asked Danzo, not letting the frowning Shikaku speak. You've outgrown your station, Genin. You will do as commanded by your superiors, and in this case, it is to not leave the village. Too many eyes are on you, not even a week has gone by since the invasion and already your profile is in the bingo books. The leaf cannot lose the 6 eyes or the 9 tails. And there it is. Naruto thought with a furious glare to the 3 idiots, all agreeing with each other. Some of the clan heads agree to various degrees as well. The bugs will go with the most logical choice. The dog doesn't like me because I pounded on her son Kiba, likely a similar case with the Hyuga and shaming Neji so publicly. The Ino Shika Cho trio are all strangely quiet. Naruto turned to the Nara and tried to lock eyes, but the man was staring towards the ground. He seemed torn on whether to speak up or not. Naruto wasn't sure if that was in his favor or not. Oi! Scarface! Shouted an irate Naruto, getting a twitch out of Shikaku, you really agree with all this? He agrees as he knows it is the right choice. Hiyashi Hyuga stated before walking forward, Mr. Uzumaki, you are not in any place to demand anything of this council, nor are you to leave this village without supervision. Supervision? Naruto thought without changing his facial expressions. He forced himself to remain calm as he could tell they were building to something. Kaharu chimed in from there, Hiruzen may have tolerated your disrespect out of amusement, but it is high time you learn your station. It was already bad enough you had no control over the 9 tails as our Jinchuriki, now you have no regard for your new bloodline's importance. She stated with a frown on her wrinkled face. Naruto was suspiciously quiet as they spoke. Shikaku started to look around the room with a frown. I do not allow Hyugas to leave without a seal to keep the Byakugan safe. I would consider the same for Naruto. The 6 eyes have turned a pathetic genin into a powerful shinobi, not something we should let leave the leaf due to carelessness. Hiyashi stated, getting approving looks from the 3 and considering ones from the rest of them. Homura stood from his chair. This council has already been working to place you in a new cell, better training conditions which will allow you to perform your duties as the 4th Hokage intended. Naruto opened his eyes at that point and glared at the advisor. Oh. Is that what my old man wanted? To be your little attack dog? Naruto wondered with a half-lidded glare that was glowing with unimaginable power. Those in the room felt hairs on their necks stand up before the words were registered. Boy, that is an, shouted an alarmed Kaharu, but she was interrupted by Sume. No fucking way you're his son. She shouted in disbelief, her hackles up at the thought. You're that woman's son, the Uzumaki outsider. Outsider. Murmured Naruto before a titanic amount of chakra was felt throughout the room. All individuals inside the room were war vets, some of multiple wars. Not since the 9 tails was unleashed in the village 12 years ago did they feel such primal fear within their bodies. Naruto's body shone with a shimmery blue glow of chakra and the ground around him cracked under the weight of his chakra. If the 3rd Hokage chakra was like a hyper-dense blanket and Orochimaru's was a malicious swamp, Naruto was like the deep ocean, and no one in the room could force their bodies to move under the weight. Danzo's lone eye opened as he stared forward, but he didn't move to say or take any action, merely observe Naruto. Naruto continued with an icy tone, do not refer to my mother as anything other than Lady Kushina, dog. He said to Sume, who gulped, then he turned to the rest. I have never liked any of you, the so-called High Council, Naruto said with a growl. Before the old man was put out you had no power and were more than happy to let him lead the village, and his body isn't even cold before you try and take control. Naruto's chakra was pulled back into him, making the glow around his body resemble blue fire. He raised his hand in a claw-like motion with a narrowed eyes. I believe you all need. Suddenly a hand was roughly slammed onto Naruto's shoulder, and if he hadn't recognized who it belonged to, he would have torn the arm off. The air in the room was once again saturated by powerful chakra, but this time it lacked the fearsome intent of Naruto's. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? Naruto asked, not even turning from the nervous council. Jiraiya smiled down at him in a goofy manner. Seems you and I had the same idea. I'll take it from here, I'll meet you outside. He said with a grin. Naruto snorted and relaxed his chakra and stance. Fine. Naruto threw a pebble from atop the Hokage monument with a sigh. The council was clearly trying to prevent the restoration of the old man and put a leash on him. He didn't particularly care about their reasons or intentions. They were cowards too scared of the old man to act till he was out of the game. From loyal advisors to ambitious swine, he hated wishy-washy people like that. It had been roughly an hour since he sat down on his father's monument, and he was pretty sure that Jiraiya would be done soon. He was anxious to get out of the village to find Tsunade Senju. The old man is stable at the moment. He isn't going to die if they can maintain him as is, but I believe that he will cross a point of no return in 3 weeks. The way his internal network was burned by his jutsu, that woman better be worth it. Naruto thought with a sigh. Don't think too hard, Naruto, you're far too young for wrinkles. Commented Jiraiya, who landed next to him and plopped down. Naruto spared him a glance before turning back to the village. Did you talk sense into those fools? He asked, not particularly caring either way at this point. He was leaving come nightfall. Jiraiya slapped him on the back. Of course. Who do you think I am? I'm quite persuasive when I need to be. He exclaimed with a beaming grin on his face. Naruto looked at him then shook his head. I can't believe those fools. He's not even dead, Naruto said with a frown. Jiraiya sighed tiredly. Crazy as it seems, Sensei's teammates Kaharu and Homura are the two that care the most about preserving his vision of the village. They're just quite pragmatic and don't have his attachments to you and others that soften his decisions. He explained softly. Naruto turned to him with a raised brow. Soft. The old man was many things, but he wasn't that soft. Wise and kind, sure. But he never held back after a prank went too far on my end. Jiraiya laughed. Yes, soft. If you weren't like a grandson to him, he'd have had you trained since you could walk and wouldn't have tolerated anything resembling a prank from you. Remember, Naruto, you're a deterrent for war. A Jinchuriki, and many would consider Sensei a fool for not treating you as such. Several of whom are in this very village. I suppose, and the rest of those fools. I didn't think the clan heads would act like that. Yeah, Jiraiya mumbled, that's a whole other issue. Many of the clans are still trying to figure out their standing in the village and the Fire Lord's court since the Senju and Uchiha were basically wiped out. You present an unfortunate obstacle for their family's rise in acclaim. Naruto narrowed his eyes at that, explain. There are currently 3 great clans in this country and this village. The Senju, Uchiha and Sarutobi. You, or the Uzumaki, are being considered to be the 4th great clan right now. It's not confirmed yet, but it's all but set after this. Jiraiya said while extending forward a small booklet. Naruto took it and looked at it briefly. International Bingo Book. There was a marked page that Naruto opened to and felt his eyes widen in surprise. Uzumaki Naruto. Wanted for 50 meters Ryo by the village hidden in the sound. Danger rating, S class. Note. Wields a bloodline known as the Six Eyes Ocular Jutsu. Huh, Naruto said with a snort before handing the book back. The snake is a bitter one. Jiraiya tucked the book back into his pocket. You are now the 3rd, 4th if we still count Sensei, and the international community still does for now, S-class individual aligned with the leaf. The Cloud Village boasts 3, the Sand boasted 2, the Stone boasts 4, and who knows what's happening in the mist with the war and constant defections. In the Fire Country's court, the 3 now potentially 4 great clans have 3 of the continent's 4 S-class ninja. You, Sensei, and Tsunade, which is why those clans in there are less than pleased with you as you blocked one of the only times an opportunity to raise themselves has come in years. As they barely boast an A rank much less S, so they know they can't compete with you in terms of strength. Add to your pedigree, The Uzumaki being a once massive and powerful clan and your father being who he was, it was almost a no-brainer to elevate you and the Uzumaki to great clan status. Explained Jiraiya with a tired sigh as he looked out over the village. Naruto scratched his head with a frown. The hell does all that even mean? I get that S-class means I'm considered an elite ninja, but who cares about great clan? Is it really just status that's important to them? Don't underestimate the power of status. Tsunade has had benefits that have prevented her being labeled a deserter due to her clan's status. Even if she was a non-elite ninja, her name alone would grant her many opportunities and leverage most would only dream of at the capital. Sasuke will have many privileges as the last of the Uchiha, loyal at least, once he comes of age. That is without the economic advantages and ears of people in the capital that can make big things happen. Many of the clans in the village would greatly benefit from such things, as most of them provide a service outside of producing ninja. Jiraiya then continued in a more serious voice, also do not discount the elevated status of being an S-class. While not a military title, as in you're still a genin at the moment. The level of power and prestige an S-class has awards them privileges and leeway of their own just to keep them loyal. You are a face of the continent and the leaf now and will be treated as such. Even an orphan like me has lived very comfortably after attaining S-class. Though if I'm being honest, while likely deserving of S-class, you're probably the weakest of the three of us at the moment. Naruto shrugged, give me a bit more time to get Infinity down and we can revisit that comment. He said lightly, to which Jiraiya thumped him on the head. Naruto then jumped to his feet, so now what? Are we leaving to get the old broad? Jiraiya shot to his feet hastily, don't say that. Something you have to know about her is she's vain with a capital V. Don't insult her like that or it'll make our job 100 times harder. He warned with a bead of sweat on his forehead. Naruto raised his hands silently in surrender. Jiraiya took a breath and calmed himself. Next is we leave at first light for about a 2-week journey. I have a few leads so hopefully we're done before that. Sounds good. I haven't been able to meet up with my team in the aftermath of the invasion. Have you heard anything about them? Naruto asked. He wouldn't lie and say he wasn't a bit guilty at not looking for them in the past week, but he had spent much of it at the hospital with the old man or training. Sasuke and Sakura are fine, they had light injuries that were treated after the fighting. Sasuke led the team sent to protect the little ones at the academy quite well. I'd get the story from him, but rumor has it he proved himself quite well for promotion. Kakashi was low on chakra, but he's been in and out of the village on emergency duties. Jiraiya explained before turning thoughtful, that's another reason the council didn't want you leaving. They didn't want the village without an S-class to protect it and they knew I'd be leaving to get Tsunade. Naruto rolled his eyes, yeah, I'm sure it was for a reason like that, they need their strongest here. Really making me feel like I have some type of privilege right now. He said sarcastically. He knew that was barely a consideration during that meeting, they were chomping at the bit to get him under their thumb. I didn't say it was the only reason, just a reason. Jiraiya countered with a smile, in their own way they think they're doing what's best for the village. Unfortunately, the Anbu commander, Shikaku, and Suma are really the only active ninja on the council anymore, the rest have duties inside the village they attend to. So their pragmatism may be a bit skewed these days. Jiraiya suddenly stopped. By the way, when did you learn about your old man? I heard you mention it in the council chamber and just went along with it. Naruto snorted with a grin while pointing to his eyes. Ever since I've gotten these bad boys, I've been able to think far clearer and figure things out way faster. I saw a picture of him and knew instantly. Then I broke into the record room at the Hokage Tower and found out about my mother. I didn't really bring it up because it wasn't super important at the time, I guess. I was just happy to know who they were. He said softly. Jiraiya wrapped an arm around his shoulder. They would both be incredibly proud of you, never doubt that. Thanks, Naruto said with a smile. That being said, I am pretty annoyed, but I want to talk to the old man before I let it out. After departing from Jiraiya, Naruto decided to stroll through the village in search for his team. He was taking in the sights and surveying the damage done by the invasion. Shops and signs were busted up, but surprisingly very few were totally out of commission. There were civilians chatting in the street going over their stories from the invasion with relieved smiles on their faces. Some who looked over at him had surprised looks on their faces, a few even looked slightly awed by him. Word spreads fast. I'm sure my actions with Gaara and Orochimaru have given me a new image to the people of the village. Naruto mused with a smile as he basked in the attention, offering smiles and waves to everyone who looked at him positively. Can't say I hate this development. As he walked, he listened to the whispers as he passed by. Saying he took down the tail beast himself. Makes sense considering. Heard he fought alongside Lord Hokage. Husband as a Chunin, said he's to be considered a lord soon. Who would have thought that boy would turn out like that? Still pissed he turned all my linens pink last year. Heard he was the only to lure the messenger birds over the Homura shop to cover it in bird poop. Naruto had to withhold his laughter at the last few. He worked very hard on those pranks, and he was happy that their legend remained. He felt a warmth in his heart to hear whispers about him in a positive light. It wasn't that long ago that he would have to harden his heart just to walk home. Instead of Ichiraku Ramen, Naruto went towards the training grounds that his team frequented. A bit more walking and he was made privy to a sight that if his 6 eyes hadn't told him was real he would have thought was a genjutsu. Sasuke and Sakura were locked into a spar. Sasuke didn't have the Sharingan activated, and it seemed to be hand-to-hand only, but they were going at it. Sakura's fighting style had evolved over the last month. Under the tutelage of Naruto with Jiraiya's assistance, they made her from an academy fighter to a viscous opportunist. Sakura ducked under a jab, spun outside of Sasuke and lashed out with a kick that the boy was forced to absorb before responding. Sasuke would throw a continuous combo that Sakura would deflect, dodge, and counter with incredible precision. Sasuke ducked low and went for an uppercut. Sakura saw it coming and leaned back, however that was what Sasuke wanted and spun for a jumping back kick that she took full onto her chest. Not out of the fight, she rolled with the momentum and slid back on her feet. Bursting forth with speed levels above where she was during the exam, she let loose a 2-punch combo that Sasuke ducked and deflected that she followed up with a calf kick that Sasuke deflected with his shin. Sakura front flipped from his shin and came down with a high kick that Sasuke was forced to block with both arms with a slight grunt. Sakura jumped back and noticed Sasuke approaching with high speed and sent forward a kick. Sakura leaned back from the kick, then continued with the movement for a high kick to Sasuke's chin that knocked him off balance. She shot forward and went for a haymaker that Sasuke dodged and grabbed her arm and held it behind her back. Naruto decided to announce himself then. Wow. Sakura, that was great. Soon you'll be a worthy teammate. He laughed with a grin. Sakura deflated at hearing his voice. Shut up, you moron. She shouted back, still being held by Sasuke. Sasuke turned over to Naruto. She's improved quite a bit. I heard she was training with you last month. Yep. I needed someone to practice on. She has some insane potential for hand-to-hand. I actually have a few ideas on what else she needs. Naruto said with a wide smile while walking forward. Sakura, your chakra control is good, but your chakra enhancement is wasteful and poorly channeled. Work on that and you'll be way better. I'm getting better at maintaining optimal enhancement, but while I'm fighting it's tough to keep it steady. Sakura said with a sigh as she was let go by Sasuke. I have a few ideas on how to train. I think it's just going to take time. Kakashi-sensei had me enhancing myself at all times and he would call out different levels and I would have 2 seconds to match until it was second nature. Sasuke said as he stretched lightly. Though I haven't been able to maintain it for very long before tiring myself out, I have a few minutes at my max. Naruto wrapped an arm around Sasuke's shoulder. Keep training and you'll get it, Sasuke. He cheered with a high-pitched voice. Sasuke responded with a shove, then glared at the trees. Sakura, keep training it. I'll help when I get back. I'm going to be gone for a few weeks to get Tsunade to come heal the old man. Explained Naruto before becoming sheepish. Don't tell anyone where I'm going or that it's for the old man. Don't think I should have mentioned it. No, you should not have. Came the voice of Kakashi as he appeared next to them out of nowhere. Sasuke and Sakura turned from Kakashi's sudden appearance to Naruto. Why are you in the loop with Lord Hokage? Asked Sakura. Well, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to share, but since you're my team I'll just trust your discretion. Naruto said with a lazy smile. Kakashi just quietly sighed but didn't move to interrupt him. I fought with the old man, so I was there. He's out of the game unfortunately, but with the help of Tsunade he'll be up and about in no time. She's the only one who can help, so it's become top priority. Jiraiya and I are going to get her. Kakashi perked up after hearing that. Both of you. I'm surprised they're allowing that. He said with his lone eye showing a bit of surprise. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Kakashi. Don't tell me you're on those fools' side. I'm not sitting around while the old man is in that situation. I don't care about my status, and if it makes you feel better, I should be able to return at a moment's notice if necessary. Kakashi just raised his hands in surrender. Status? Asked Sasuke with a raised eyebrow. I've been dubbed S-class, so they want to shackle me here, among other reasons. Naruto grumbled with an eye roll. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened comically. S-class. They shouted. Sasuke's eyes fell to the ground frozen in thought. Kakashi settled them down. Yes, it's more than earned considering his actions in the invasion and who they were against. It's customary for all of the Great Five to have an S-class, usually their cage, guarding the village at all times, and with Lord Hokage indisposed, Kakashi trailed off. Naruto! Shouted Sakura in shock. You can't leave if Lord Jiraiya is going. What if? Naruto interrupted with a raised hand. The old man's situation isn't known by the public. As far as anyone is concerned, he's resting. Even those within the village that don't have Jonin clearance don't know. He explained. Wait, what do you mean you could return at a moment's notice? Asked Sasuke. Naruto blurred forward and hugged Sasuke. I'm glad you asked, Sasuke. He shouted, getting face full of Sasuke's hands as he tried to free himself. After unceremoniously dropping Sasuke, Naruto went through 11 hand seals ending with the snake seal. There was a slight flare of chakra and a bit of a whoosh sound. Naruto in 1 second was in front of them, then at the next he was behind them. All three of them turned from where Naruto was standing to where he was standing several times. Kakashi just chuckled in disbelief while Sasuke glared at the grass beneath his feet while Sakura looked a bit excited at the development. I did that by playing with space-natured chakra. Naruto shouted joyfully. Basically, if I consider where I am 0.1 then where I want to be 0.2, I reduce the space between the 2 points to 0 and I'm warped to that point. The fourth Hokage did something similar but with seals as the medium, and his was easier to make combat ready. Though with time my jutsu will be so superior no one will even bring him up. He shouted with a wide grin and his sunglasses shining in the setting sunlight. It isn't as complicated as it sounds. I basically apply my infinity jutsu in reverse. I'm not expanding time to constantly slow down incoming attacks but reducing the distance to 0 using space chakra. I should be able to do it over long ranges eventually, but at the moment I can only do it to places in eyesight after 11 hand seals to get the chakra ratios right. Though I do have the anchor to help in my apartment for emergencies. Naruto thought with a hum. Space chakra was more tangible than time-based chakra, so he could play with it a bit more. Time was incredibly dangerous. He didn't want to mess with it too much and get sent into the fucking past or something. Looking back towards his team, he saw that Sasuke and Kakashi were off to the side talking about lightning jutsu, completely ignoring him. While Sakura was staring at him with wide eyes, clearly appreciating his genius. You're going to tear yourself in half doing stuff like that. Sakura said with wide eyes. Do you even understand the physics behind what you're doing? 'Cause if. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. I test it with clones. Hey! Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke, you done? He shouted. Oh sorry, did you say something, Naruto? Asked Kakashi as he and Sasuke turned back to him. Nope, he's not getting me with that. Thought Naruto before weaving seals to reactivate his jutsu. See you in a few weeks, losers. He said before warping out of the clearing. Naruto and Jiraiya were enjoying a nice stroll through the forests of Fire Country as they made their way towards where Jiraiya's intel suggested Tsunade was residing with her aide Shizune. So what's the big deal here? Asked Naruto with his hands in his pocket. Why is getting this lady so involved? I mean, at the end of the day she's a leaf ninja, active or not. Jiraiya sighed. You're right, but remember what I said about great clans and S-class privilege. Well, she's taken advantage of both to be given indefinite leave, so the trouble isn't finding her, it's getting to her without her sensing us and bolting. If she knows we're coming, then she'll run, and we'll be on a chase I don't particularly want to have to be a part of. Naruto snorted, she sounds like a real handful. He laughed. I guess I won't complain too much, it's nice to be out of the village for a bit. The silence continued for a while, but Naruto had another question. So, why are you so focused on going to find her? I'm more than enough to go bring her back and the old fogies would be happy to have you stick around. Not like they'd really trust me with anything like they do you. Well, that's cause you're still a twerp. Jiraiya said with a grin, getting an eye roll from Naruto. In all seriousness, it's because there are rules, and despite having more knowledge of chakra theory than any Jonin I've met, you are sorely lacking in the political knowledge of our country and the others. Especially as a new S-class, there are rules even in this country we have to follow, more unspoken but rules all the same. Naruto turned to him with a raised eyebrow. Maybe I can force the snake to resend the rating cause this is becoming annoying, old man. He grumbled. Jiraiya laughed. With strength comes responsibility, Naruto. You have tremendous strength, so. I got it. Sighed Naruto. So what am I missing? There is a balance between the Hokage and the Fire Lord. While ninja villages are largely independent from the capital, there is a back and forth. The Fire Lord in the capital is in charge, and there are 5 advisors, all of which hold large influence in the country and trade throughout the continent. Trade that we need, food, cloth, resources, herbs, basically things that don't grow or exist naturally in this country. With that, the capital also provides funds to the village in times of need, such as after the Nine Tails attack, where we needed all the help we could get to quickly rebuild so as not to look weak to the other 4 great nations. Naruto hummed, I suppose it doesn't come for free. Jiraiya nodded, exactly. The Hokage's ninja are tools to complete missions, and those with money can hire us. The Fire Lord and the 5 advisors often have work that needs to be done, from being political diplomats in other nations or taking care of rivals. Naruto saw Jiraiya giving him a deadly stare, and Naruto understood, the rivals weren't always in other countries. None of this is hidden from the Fire Lord or Hokage. In fact, it's actually encouraged to keep everyone sharp. We may not have the public history that the Bloody Mist does, but the Land of Fire has its own history of infighting. Besides the Fire Lord, the Hokage has the most authority in the country, with the 5 advisors being below that, then are the great clans. See why it's important. Naruto rubbed his hair with a groan. Yeah, I get it, so what's the rules? You explained all that but didn't answer my question. Jiraiya thumbed him on the head. I was getting to it. He said with a glare, you and I are the go-to hire for those in the capital. Our power and reputation make us ideal emissaries, as we can go most places to deliver messages that would normally kill all that approach from the leaf. Last year I went to the Rock Village to deliver the updated trade agreement from the Fire Lord to the Stone Lord. I know you know how that's impossible for most others. Naruto nodded with an impressed face. Even with your representative you have some balls, Jiraiya. Laughed Naruto. I mean, you're the one who trained my old man, who tore those losers apart. Jiraiya snorted. They hate us, and him especially, but the Tsuchikage isn't a stupid man and knows there isn't a point to starting another war. For now at least. He trailed off tiredly. Think they're losing it over me? Naruto asked excitedly. I mean, I look so much like him. Not to mention I'm getting pretty famous thanks to the bingo book. Oh, I hope they've seen it. Naruto said with a wide smile. Jiraiya went to thump him on the head again, but Naruto ducked away and laughed. Ha ha, old man. Then Naruto felt a thump on his head and turned to see a clone poof away. Seriously, when did you make that? Naruto asked with a blank expression. Jiraiya burst out laughing. Like an hour ago. He shouted. Naruto blew a raspberry at him. Whatever. Jiraiya sobered back up after a bit. Back to the rules, because we're the go-to, we have to always be ready to drop what we're doing to answer a summon to the capital. Knowing you, if you were summoned while out here alone, you'd ignore it, and that would just cause all sorts of issues. Naruto nodded. Makes sense. Anyone besides you do these things? Jiraiya nodded. Yes. I do a majority of the political things. Sometimes Kakashi as well as his representative is incredible, and his strength isn't anything to scoff at. But for the work sometimes an Anbu Kapitan will take the job. The issue is the Hokage decides who gets the assignment, otherwise they would demand me for everything. My mission rate is very high, but they have practically unlimited money. Naruto perked up. Oh. What would my mission rate be? He asked. He wasn't exactly well off financially, he's only been on 10 missions and 9 of which were D rank. I'm sure it is gonna be higher than Kakashi's, so likely 2 million minimum. Jiraiya said with a wave. Mine is 10. He said with a grin, to which Naruto laughed back. Naruto suddenly stops and turns to Jiraiya with a curious expression. By the way, are we just let those guys follow us the whole time, or should we do something about it? He asked while pointing a thumb to the forests behind them where he knew they were being followed. Jiraiya shrugged. They're here for you, you take care of them. I was hoping they'd have the guts to start the fight. In the next moment 6 ninja with no headband arrived in front of them with a body flicker. Naruto looked at all of them closely. There wasn't a common elemental affinity among them that would give away a village affiliation, nor were there really any visual cues. All of them had very little defining standout features. Okay, I give, where are all of you from? Called Naruto with a tilted head. Jiraiya took a few steps back. They're unaffiliated scouts, they want to get a feel for you. This means that every lord and cage now know of you and wants to see if you live up to the hype. After all, S-class win wars. Naruto stepped forward while cracking his knuckles. Got it. Now I want all of you to give it your all, don't make this boring. He shouted before blitzing forward and kicking the one in his center. To the ninja's credit, he managed to raise his guard, but Naruto felt both arms break from the kick. Naruto's eyes glowed and he blurred past the ninja he kicked to get behind him and swept his legs from out under him and rained down punches with ruthless force. Once the ninja was completely broken, he stood back up and turned to the rest. The 5 were silently watching. I would recommend you come at me together. Naruto didn't wait and rushed another. This time the ninja he was attacking was supported by 2 more who came at him with tantos. Naruto pulled the ninja in the middle who had his guard raised with earth nature chakra to protect him. Naruto grabbed him and threw him at the ninja on his right, sending them tumbling away. Then he leaned away from the slash and ducked under the follow-up attack. Naruto sent a knife hand to the ninja's open side, breaking the ribs. Naruto was forced to block an incoming kick from the 5th remaining ninja and with lightning speed grabbed the foot and tossed him into the ground. Naruto was about to finish him off when the 2 he sent tumbling away shot forward to attack, one with a tanto, the other with a fist glowing with lighting-natured chakra. The one with the tanto was channeling wind chakra, so Naruto knew not to touch it, otherwise he'd lose a finger or hand. With that in mind, he avoided the tanto with swaying movements and waited for his opportunity. The second ninja with the lightning fist attacked after he swayed back, and Naruto grinned savagely at the mistake. He grabbed the incoming attack by the wrist and pushed it in the way of the wind blade, causing an explosion from the elements clashing. Naruto saw lightning fist lose his hand and moved to finish him. Naruto jumped and kicked him in the chest, sending him back, then warped behind the ninja and slammed a full force punch to his back, cracking and breaking all him bones in his torso. The ninja with a tanto had his blade ruined and he moved to attack in hand to hand. Naruto parried a punch and hit him with 6 punches to various places around his body, then finished with a spinning kick to his neck, sending him tumbling away out of the fight. The remaining 2, one with the broken ribs and the other who he threw into the ground, were on guard next to each other. Naruto noticed that the one with the tanto pulled another out to dual-wield the blades. Naruto shot forward and made it look as if he was going after the unarmed one, but attacked both, the one with the tanto with a kick and the unarmed one with an elbow. The bladed ninja tried to slash him while the other tried to punch him, but Naruto parried the punch and grabbed the wrist holding the blade. He pulled the wrist forward and kneed him in the face, rattling his skull and shattering his nose. The last one knew he was outmatched and took out a roll of explosive notes and rushed him. Naruto grinned and coated his hand with chakra as he grabbed the roll of notes and flooded the paper with so much chakra it destabilized the seals, causing them to catch fire rather than explode. Naruto then leg swept the ninja, and followed up with a hammer arm to smash him into the ground, creating a crater in the earth from the force. Naruto wiped his hands off as he looked at the 6 downed ninja. That was fun, now go. Tell everyone of my amazing power. I'll happily beat any of you into the ground again. Laughed Naruto. He watched as they managed to pull themselves up and drag each other away into the forests. Jiraiya stepped up with a thoughtful expression. That was different than your usual boasting. More calculated. Naruto nodded. After the invasion, and the old man, we need a new boogeyman to deter foolishness from our rivals. I took them down without ninjutsu as a statement of strength. I do still plan to be Hokage after all. Jiraiya nodded. Smart. Though you should settle for 6th Hokage as you're too valuable to be relegated to the job now. That's actually the reason we're rushing to get Tsunade as well. She is perfect for the job, strength and reputation in spades, and we won't lose any manpower as she hasn't been active in decades. Naruto's face gave nothing away as he acknowledged what Jiraiya was saying. He didn't want to voice that he wasn't exactly a fan of someone who ran from her duties becoming Hokage. He'd have to test her when they met. Gotcha, said Naruto as they continued their walk. Tanzuka-gai, one of the 4 major cities in the Land of Fire. There were many attractions and centermost was the entertainment district which held more gambling houses than anywhere else in the country. Naruto and Jiraiya walked through the bustling nightlife of Tanzuka-gai with curious eyes as they looked around. Well, Naruto was curious, Jiraiya looked like he was back in his old stomping ground. Soft warm lights from lanterns lit the footpaths, shops and stands were spread out throughout the district's streets. Bars and restaurants were filled with laughing and cheering as the customers were celebrating together for whatever reason. The atmosphere of the city was drastically different than anywhere else in the country. While positive in energy, the Leaf was a hidden village, even the civilians knew it was primarily a military city with the ninja dictating all the rules. While fun could be had, if the ninja didn't approve or sanction it on some level, it was stopped. The capital was extremely positive, even to civilians with no power and influence finding it a nice place to live. If only because the rules were a bit laxer than the Leaf, as there are no seemingly all-knowing ninja enforcing the laws. The capital was run on pleasure and money, for better or worse. Tanzuka-gai was a happy medium. Enforced by a regiment of warriors from the capital as well as patrolling Chunin squads. That allowed the streets to be relatively safe from crime, but still have the freedom for entertainment that wouldn't have been strictly permitted in the Leaf. These people are also happy, thought Naruto with a grin. Jiraiya mentioned that they were approaching Tsunade and had them wait on the outskirts of village until nightfall as she would be drunk enough to not notice them enter the village. Naruto suspected that even with chakra suppression he wasn't capable of fully hiding his presence as his chakra was just too vast. Not exactly awesome for a ninja, he'd work on it. In here, said Jiraiya as he pointed to a bar located on the end of a lane. The lights from the bar were a bit duller and the sounds were lower than the rest of the bars back in the center of the village. Naruto followed Jiraiya into the bar with a curious look. There were only 2 customers in the bar located at a booth in the corner. One of which stood up as they entered. Jiraiya! Shouted Tsunade after they walked in. Jiraiya smiled. Long time no see, Tsunade. Sheesh, I'm exhausted from all the walking. He said as he moved to join her and Shizune at the booth. Naruto followed behind with his hands in his pockets. I don't know anything about this woman except for what's in the books. I'll let Jiraiya do the talking, they're looking at each other as more than former teammates. He thought with a raised eyebrow. After sitting at the booth, Jiraiya gestured to him. This is Naruto, he came with me to meet you. Yo! Naruto said with a salute as he accepted food from the waiter then ordered more. Tsunade barely spared him a glance, but Shizune's eyes widened for a moment before she turned away. Naruto didn't bother looking at her more than a glance, he was too busy being blown away by Tsunade. Her chakra is unlike anything I've ever seen. Every muscle fiber has traces of being enhanced. That's control on a level one didn't think someone could achieve without a bloodline. Thought Naruto as he let his 6 eyes take in everything about the woman. I would bet that even without her actively molding chakra to strengthen herself she's stronger than the average Jonin. At her max I bet she could shatter a mountain. It's crazy that someone so strong is so weak-minded to need a genjutsu to make herself look younger. Jiraiya took a drink from the sake at the table and sighed happily. You've grown even more beautiful, Tsunade. I've missed you, even if you spend so much effort to avoid me. He said with a grin. Surprisingly, Tsunade laughed. Maybe if you tried a bit harder it wouldn't have been 2 years since we've seen each other. She said with a smile. Naruto's eyes widened. Huh, wouldn't have called that. Jiraiya has the hots for this woman. I thought his true love were the ladies at the entertainment district back home. He laughed to himself at the thought. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. It has been a while. He said with a frown. We'll have to pick up where we left off in the Moon Resort. She replied with a hiccup. I haven't had a good. Her eyes narrowed, and she shook her head. Oh god, I am drunk. She said morosely. Jiraiya burst into laughter, confusing Naruto and getting a tired sigh from Shizune. I'll say. We were at that resort nearly 10 years ago. Though those were the best times. He said with a melancholic smile on his face. Naruto tilted his head and connected the dots quickly, then burst into laughter, getting the attention of everyone else at the table. You're kidding, Jiraiya. You and her. That's wild. He turned to Tsunade. You must be something to snag this one. He said while pointing to Jiraiya, who was rapidly growing more and more nervous. I mean, there can't be too many out there that would settle for a genjutsu-clad old woman, much less Jiraiya of the Sannin. Somehow Naruto managed to hit every single conversation landmine Tsunade possessed, and he seemed to be even more thrilled as he finished speaking. Shizune pulled her pet pig that was nestled in her arms closer with a worried look while Jiraiya was sweating bullets in his seat. Tsunade glared at him with a thunderous look that even Naruto found a tad bit scary. Who do you think you are, you little shit? She shouted, standing to her feet. Why are you here, Jiraiya? If you wanted to drink, you shouldn't have brought a snot-nosed little punk. Naruto's face softened from the grin he was wearing as he felt a bit of irritation flare from her words. He would normally shut down someone talking like this, but he wasn't in front of a normal ninja, so he'd offer leeway. Honestly, she was still pretty drunk, and he found it pretty funny. Jiraiya sighed. Honestly, I wish I were here for fun times. I'm here to request you return to the village. Sensei hurt himself bad using that jutsu to deal with Orochimaru during the invasion. Tsunade's eyes hardened. So that old fossil used that, huh? Never would have thought he still had it in him. She mused, cruelly, getting a twitch out of Naruto. Well, you can stuff it. You've been named 5th Hokage. Jiraiya interrupted. It's not so simple as blowing me off. Shizune gasped and Tsunade's eyes widened for a moment before glaring at him fiercely. You dare, you hunt me down to demand I return to that place, and even worse, you convince those people to make me Hokage, me. Tsunade jumped to her feet. You can both fuck off. She shouted while slamming a hand onto the table, cracking it. Naruto stared at the table blankly while Jiraiya finished his saucer of sake. Neither of them all that intimidated. Too much, she said lowly as she sat back down. That hellhole took too much from me, and now you want me to die like those fools, like Sensei. That's all the Hokage position is. A chair for a fool to kill themselves at the appropriate time. Naruto clenched his fist. Fools. Big words from a weak woman like you wallowing in self-pity. He said venomously. There are many who have lost everything for the leaf and still happily protect it. I had my ticket torn less than an hour after I was born, and you don't see me drowning in alcohol. Tsunade snapped her head to him. That's enough. She shouted while jumping back to her feet. Naruto mirrored her actions with a slight glare from behind his glasses. Think you know everything, twerp. Then let's take this outside. She said with a growl before stomping out of the bar. Jiraiya sighed and tossed the barkeep a roll of money before following her out, Shizune and Naruto right behind him. The two ninjas stood across from each other in the empty road. The bar was far enough from the main street that there were no civilians around to get in the way. You think your hero worship of the Hokage makes them less of fools? I'll show you just how shallow your thoughts are on the real world. Tsunade said while stretching her arms. Naruto tsked, I'm going to say it right now. Apologize and take back what you've said about the Hokage. And I won't smash you into the ground and drag your old ass back to the leaf. He said with a frown. As he said that, he observed as her chakra purged the alcohol from her system at lightspeed. Yeah sure, you little shit. Tell you what, land a hit on me and I'll acknowledge you as a ninja. Till then you can settle for being the twerp genin with too loud a bark. She taunted with a smirk. Naruto tilted his head. Twerp genin. Huh, I'm the future Hokage of the leaf. I'm too young right now for it, so they're giving it to a useless ninja like you who won't cost us battle power to put in the chair. He responded while limbering up. Tsunade's eyes widened for a moment at his words, then she went back to angry. Also, Started Naruto before shooting forward at his absolute top speed, shocking everyone and slamming a devastating punch into Tsunade's gut, launching her off the street and through a building. One hit isn't going to be all that tough, he said while dispassionately gazing in the direction she flew. Shizune off to the side leaned over to Jiraiya, so he's the one I heard about. Probably. Tsunade clearly doesn't pay attention to the new developments in the ninja world. Jiraiya said with an amused laugh, she was paying for it now, he thought. A pulse of chakra was felt from the rubble of the building, then green wisps of chakra began rising into the air. Naruto popped his neck as his 6 eyes told him that the rust on Tsunade's abilities were quickly being removed. Guess we'll see if the legendary fighter is all she's cracked up to be. Rubble was blasted into the air as Tsunade shot to her feet. Chakra was consolidated around her gut, healing the damage inflicted by Naruto. Healing of that level without physically directing the chakra, you're pretty good. Complimented Naruto as he watched it happen with his eyes. He knew that such a thing was beyond him at the moment. Tsunade cracked her neck and limbered up. Who are you? You're not much older than a fresh graduate, she asked, then turned to Jiraiya. Who is he? Naruto Uzumaki, I introduced him earlier. He answered helpfully with a smile. Naruto didn't wait any longer and shot forward. This time Tsunade caught the punch and sent one of her own. The punch was deflected to the right, however the sheer force of the punch was such that the building in the path had a massive crack in the wall. Naruto went for an uppercut that was caught. He ducked under a hook, threw a jab to her gut that was redirected, and he was caught in the side by her follow-up strike, making him wince. Naruto backed off, then raised a knee to her face, and she slammed a palm to stop him, then followed up with a jab at lightning speed. Naruto only barely dodged in time. He launched 3 punches as fast as he could. She only dodged the first and blocked the second before taking a hit to the kidney. She grunted at the force, then went on the offensive with her own combo that Naruto was struggling to deflect and dodge. He swayed around the first punch, caught the second and winced from the power behind the hit. The last was barely ducked under and he felt his hairs sway from the force. Tsunade didn't let up the pressure. She stomped the ground, which caused a crater to be formed, taking away Naruto's footing that she took advantage of by landing a devastating punch to his stomach, launching him away. Naruto caught himself mid-air and landed in a crouch, a stream of blood flowing from his mouth. Her raw skill with taijutsu is in a whole other planet than my own. I'm a solid Chunin. She could go toe-to-toe with the raikage and skill. What a pain, not to mention her chakra enhancement. Body is better than mine. In hand-to-hand I'll lose. Okay, you're good. Naruto commented as Tsunade rushed forward with flaming green chakra flowing from her fists. Now, chakra enhancement jutsu, red, said Naruto while powering up a glowing red orb at the tip of his finger. Before he could fire the jutsu, Jiraiya jumped between them with both hands raised. Let's stop it here. You two will destroy the town if you keep it. Tsunade immediately stopped while Naruto sighed as he stopped red before it went off. It was about to get good. Jiraiya. Naruto whined. I think she may be a worse matchup for me than Jiraiya. How interesting. I need to get Infinity usable. I'm scraping the surface of S, but I'm not there fully yet if this is what type of monsters await me. Tsunade stared at the ground in shock. I didn't think to go that far, she muttered to herself, completely shocked at the boy's ability and her own lack of thought in getting so serious. She knew he was likely Kushina's son, but to think he was so strong. Jiraiya, let's go, we need to talk, she demanded before stomping off. Shizune sighed as she took in the destroyed environment, then rushed to catch up to her master. Jiraiya watched her leave with a wistful smile. Her breasts are the wonder, but that ass isn't bad either, he said with a smile. Naruto turned to him with a deadpan expression. Yeah, I'm going to bed. Don't pull something, old man, he trailed off, feeling gross for even thinking like that. I'll get a room at an inn. With that, master and student separated for the night, confident that their mission would be over in the coming days, not knowing what was coming. It was nearing noon when Jiraiya and Tsunade decided to sit down to eat together. Both of them caught up after the impromptu fight the night before and were enjoying each other's company. Both of them found solace in one of the only people in the world that has been there for them throughout their whole lives. Jiraiya smiled to himself as he watched his old teammate and lifelong flame eat. There was a time when this was the dream I would die for, he mused wistfully, then got a bit more serious. Tsunade, I hope you know that you're the best person for the job, otherwise I would have never suggested you. Tsunade smiled at first then glared to the side. We can't just have a meal, huh? Always focused on work. First it was your network that didn't let you settle down, now you won't even let me settle on my own. She said with a downcast expression. I told the kid and I'll tell you, I don't think I have any more to give the village. That's not true, I saw it last night when you fought with Naruto. Jiraiya said making effort to lock eyes with her. You're lost in the past, but if you look to the present, you'd see there are people who love you and believe in you. I failed all the people I love and who loved me. Tsunade said with a glare. I couldn't save Dan, Nawaki died before I got there, and she trailed off quietly and shook her head. We couldn't have a family 10 years ago, both of us failed at that. Jiraiya snorted, too late for you and I and too much baggage, but I did have a family. He declared with a grin and slightly misty eyes, in every way that matters Minato was my son, I certainly taught and loved him like he was my own and I felt like Kushina was my daughter when they married. He said with a small smile as he thought back to different days. Tsunade's eyes softened, they were amazing people, though very distant Kushina was family to me too. Yep. Agreed Jiraiya, and I'm going to do all I can to be there for Naruto and guide him to be a proper ninja. He has much to learn but I have the utmost faith in him. Tsunade hummed at the mention of the blonde, just what is with that kid? He shouldn't be that strong at that age. Minato was a strong Chunin at that age but that boy, even sensei didn't become an S-class till he was 16. Jiraiya sighed, you noticed that even at night he wore those glasses, correct? She nodded, he possesses an ocular jutsu called the Six Eyes, potentially a new bloodline. Really? Tsunade asked in wonder, what does it do? Well it is similar to the Rinnegan and Sharingan but not quite the same. Jiraiya pursed his lips as he thought the best way to describe it. It gives him the ability to see and understand chakra at a level only equaled by the Rinnegan, if not greater than. Okay, but knowing and seeing chakra should let him. Right. Jiraiya said with a nod, he can perfectly control chakra, even theoretical chakras thanks to his eyes. The jutsu he was about to use last night was red, pure positive chakra hyper-condensed in a shell of negative chakra, the power is absurd. Another jutsu is blue which is the inverse of that. But as he showed last night, he can also use chakra enhancement, body to incredible levels with no waste. Jiraiya didn't go into the insanity that was infinity. It wasn't done, and it made his head spin at the thought of it. Tsunade frowned as she took in that information, strange I haven't heard about it till now. Naruto was confronted by Orochimaru in the Chunin exams, our teammate interfered with the seal on Naruto. Explained Jiraiya getting a surprised look from Tsunade, prior to that Naruto didn't have the six eyes and was merely a promising genin. We suspect, Naruto, sensei and I, that the nine tails chakra was affecting his body and he was unable to awaken it until it was separated from him. Tsunade snorted, so Orochimaru inadvertently empowered an enemy. She said with a nasty smirk. What was Naruto like before? Jiraiya smirked, he was pretty much the same but without the power to back it up, so a knucklehead twerped genin with too loud a bark. Laughed Jiraiya repeating Tsunade's words back to her getting a snort from the woman. By the way I think I may have pulled something last night. Commented Jiraiya while stretching which got an eye roll from Tsunade. I didn't really give you a great impression of me, huh? Asked Naruto uneasily as he and Shizune strolled through the surrounding forests while their respective masters talked. Shizune gave him a side-eye before sighing, no, you did not. But I'm not ignorant to Lady Tsunade's abrasiveness. She reluctantly admitted. Naruto smiled, not like I was a bully or anything, she was about to smash me into the ground. He laughed, granted he could have used some jutsu but that would have been his loss since they were supposed to go at it via hand-to-hand. Very true, there are few in the world that can take my lady on with their bare fists. Shizune proclaimed proudly, the little pig in her arms gave an oink in agreement. I'm sure. Both of them continued to walk silently a little longer, taking in the scenery for a while. The bushes and large trees filling the environment in lush greenery with the sun peeking through the canopy of leaves above them. Naruto turned to Shizune, I'm sure Jiraiya will convince her to come back. He said suddenly. Shizune nodded absent-mindedly, I'm sure that he of all people could. Would you be happy to return home after so long? I'm quite content, she said while glancing at him. I have maintained my position as Jonin by communicating with Lord Hokage through my summons. Katsuyu has a summon nest in the village that makes it easy to send and receive mission scrolls. Naruto nodded. Not a bad idea. I guess that's how Jiraiya was able to keep in touch too. He mused. But I meant seeing your friends. Aren't you happy to return home? Yes, she said softly. I have loved learning from my lady all this time, but I do miss the leaf. Should Lady Tsunade decide not to return however, I will not fight her decision. Naruto could only listen. He didn't want to argue with her. As much as her words were likely genuine, she must have been unaware of how lonely her eyes were at this moment. It would seem all this time away had taken a toll on her and only the love and respect she felt for Tsunade was keeping her silent on the matter. A growl and a blur of motion appeared in Shizune's blind spot. Naruto only barely caught it in time to move in front of her and catch the incoming kunai slash. As he took in the appearance of the ninja, adorned with a sound village headband, and he sensed the chakra of nearly 3 dozen more surrounding them. Shizune, please stay back. There are a lot of them. Naruto said while gripping the wrist of the ninja in front of him. I'll deal with this trash. In a blur of motion no one could see Naruto's free arm lashed out with a palm strike to the chest of the ninja in front of him. It was a slight delay before the ninja coughed up a large glob of blood and fell to the ground, dying if not dead. It was then that the rest of the ninja became visible to the two-leaf ninja. Naruto whistled as he took off his glasses. Who would have thought Orochimaru still had this many followers after that failed invasion? He laughed. Shizune glanced at him in shock. He was far too calm when they were outnumbered this badly. Naruto moved through 3 hand signs that no one recognized. It wasn't that they were completely new, it was that one hand was going through different seals from the other. The molding of negative chakra so alien to normal that he needed to completely rework hand signs to manage it. A single hand rammed seal with his left, then an open palm facing towards a group of ninja followed by a savage grin from Naruto was the only signal of his attack. There was a pulse of chakra nearly invisible between the 6 ninjas, then they were all pulled together with such force their bodies were crushed into paste. The aftermath of the jutsu left a 5-diameter circle of empty space, no leaves, tree limbs or even blood and body parts. From the moment the dozens of ninjas appeared to the moment Naruto killed 6 with his jutsu blue, barely 4 seconds passed. Shizune watched everything with shock on her face. I knew that he was declared S, and his bounty from Orochimaru was 50 million. The reports came out in the bounty hunter circles. But seeing his ability in person, last night and now, all my doubts from his age are gone. He's one of those monsters. She thought as Naruto began literally tearing apart the sound ninja with his bare hands and a few applications of blue. Jiraiya growled to himself as he and Tsunade were rushing to get out of the town while smashing random sound ninja into the ground every so often. He didn't think they were all that tough and fighting them wasn't even much of a hassle. It's an unnecessary loss of life sure, but not much of a threat to him. What is Orochimaru thinking? He can't think he can take the 3 of us on with just his foot soldiers. Jiraiya wondered with a frown. Tsunade kicked a ninja away and frowned. Whatever it is, it must make him quite confident that he's launched an offensive of this level. He must have some kind of leverage. Whatever it is, it's given him confidence, and fighting him is never as simple as punching each other. Jiraiya said as the both of them cleared the town and were now jumping through the forests. The 2 of them landed in a clearing with each other covering the back of the other. Jiraiya glanced around and hummed, about 4 dozen, maybe more out of my range or lumped together and I can't tell. He said quietly. Tsunade kept her eyes of the ninja surrounding them. None of them are a real threat, but there are so many that this could be a problem. All it takes is a lucky kunai. She said with a grimace. The ground beneath them rumbles and both of them steady themselves as in the forests there were explosions. Trees were blown into the air while dust and debris blew everywhere. Once it cleared, the veteran ninja were greeted to the sight of half a dozen massive snakes closing in on them. Dozens of sound ninja readying themselves to attack and half a dozen massive snake summons looking hungry. Jiraiya started molding chakra internally and grinned. Now it's a party, he said as he slammed a hand to the ground creating a massive plume of smoke. Naruto, slightly covered in blood, and Shizune, slightly terrified from the situation but still calm, made their way through the forests with haste. I don't know Orochimaru's plan, but keeping us separated from Jiraiya and Tsunade was part of it. We have to get back to them, shouted Naruto as he rushed through the trees. Yes, agreed Shizune. A sound ninja wielding a katana cut through the air towards Naruto, who pointed a finger in his direction, creating a small Rasengan on the tip of his finger. Chakra Jutsu. Sinister spiraling shot. Naruto watched as his jutsu was dodged with a slightly impressed expression on his face. The ninja likely had quite a bit of experience under his belt. Not that it mattered, as Naruto throat punched him, followed by a devastating knee to the head. This continued for the whole journey through the forests. A ninja was ambush them and Naruto would dispatch them quickly. That was until Naruto and Shizune were forced to stop as the sight in front of them filled them with unease. There were about a dozen ninja in front of them. The numbers weren't what was shocking. No, it was the fact that their chakra was corrupted and changing their bodies. Naruto's 6 eyes told him everything. The chakra is corrupting them with nature chakra and mutating them. This damage is irreversible. Their minds are going into a frenzy as the chakra overtakes them. Naruto grimaced as he made another realization. They're fighting it. I can see it. Chakra trying to push the foreign chakra back, but they're not doing it right. They're fighting it, they don't want it. Naruto's body shook slightly as he glared up at the ninja with fury on his face and a slight wetness in his eyes. I'm sorry, he muttered to them while knowing they couldn't hear the words. I noticed it recently, thought Naruto, and he readied himself to fight them. Ever since I woke up in the forest with these eyes, I've become more ruthless. Thinking back, I wasn't the kind of person to kill people without a very good reason. I hard to force my resolve to kill Haku on the bridge, but now, I don't think too deeply. Maybe because I've noticed that all the ninja that I've killed were loyal to that madman Orochimaru, but now. The first and centermost ninja was hunched over with horns coming out of its spine. It howled loud enough to disrupt the air as it charged towards Naruto. He met the charge with a clash that cratered the ground beneath them. Naruto felt his body rattle from the collision. While its strength was devastating, its mind and speed weren't, and Naruto quickly shoved a Rasengan into its head before it could realize what was coming. The blood and gore from the impact covered the front of Naruto's shirt and he felt his eye twitch. I don't want to kill them. 2 more attacked him, both having massive claws poised to shred him to pieces. Naruto jumped up at the last moment, letting them crash into each other. 2 Rasengan, 1 in each hand, were slammed into the head of the mutated ninja beneath him. Naruto stood and watched as he was being rushed by the rest. He glared and charged his chakra. In front of his right hand, a swirling malevolent ball of red energy burst into existence. But they want me too, and I have too. Chakra enhancement jutsu. Red. He said before releasing a cataclysmic shockwave that tore the forests asunder. Trees in the jutsu's path were torn from the ground and swept the incoming ninja in the shockwave. Naruto could only watch dispassionately before rushing into action. Jiraiya heel slammed a sound ninja with monstrous mutations taking over its body. Its head cratered into the ground, instantly dead. He absorbed a tackle and parried the momentum into the ground and slammed a Rasengan into its body, killing it. What a pain, Jiraiya thought as another ninja approached him. This one was kicked away as he was forced to parry the slash of the next one, duck the third and counter the fourth. Jiraiya, with speed that was uncommon in someone of his size, jumped into the air before weaving 2 hand signs to release a fire-style dragon flame bomb directly below him into the 4 mutated ninja. In the distance were the 3 remaining snakes battling it out with Gamabunta and Gamaken. Gamabunta was likely enough for snakes of these caliber, but he wanted to be sure in case Manda showed up. Seeing as Orochimaru hadn't showed yet, it was likely the boss snake would come later. Behind him was a kneeling catatonic Tsunade being protected by 2 horse-sized toads with swords on their backs. She was able to take out 3 ninjas before one of them sliced their arm open to cover her face with blood, causing her to collapse from her trauma. It's bad enough they have these numbers, then there are the curse-marked mutated ninja. I had to summon 2 boss-sized toads, then 2 soldier toads. If I'm conservative in my assessment, I have used about a third of my chakra. If it gets worse, I may need Ma and Pa for Orochimaru. Jiraiya thought with a grimace. He didn't want to go that far for something like this. Then he turned to the hill overlooking the battlefield where a single solitary figure was observing the battle. A young ninja that Jiraiya recognized from the reports of the invasion. Kabuto Yakushi was overseeing the battle with a sound headband on his head, fully announcing to the world his affiliation. Guess the report was true, he was a traitor. Jiraiya thought before gritting his teeth, I'm really wanting to smash that smirk off his face. As more mutated ninjas were about to rush Jiraiya, the entire field was overcome by a menacing and terrifyingly powerful chakra. Even the mutated ninja were frozen in place from their instincts. Naruto Uzumaki, 6 eyes glaring at the world and powerful chakra flowing off of his body, emerged from the tree line with a small tear track falling from both eyes. Jiraiya looked over at him with a worried expression. Naruto. Said boy turned to his master with wide enraged eyes. I've killed a lot of people that I really would have rather not have. Naruto said blankly before his eyes settled on Kabuto in the distance. Hand signs were weaved in a flash and Naruto warped directly in front of Kabuto, whose brain couldn't acknowledge Naruto's sudden appearance before he was punched directly in the chest with all of Naruto's strength. Blue chakra flowed from his fists in thick wisps trailing from the path of his attack. Kabuto vomited blood and was blasted off the hill and into the tree line behind him. Gamabunta managed to kill the last snake while Gamaken dismissed himself as the fight finished. Right as Gamabunta was going to announce his farewell, the ground in the center of the clearing exploded and a massive purple snake slithered into the air. Naruto warped over to Jiraiya, barely sparing a glance to Tsunade behind them, and watched as the massive boss snake entered the fray. Dozens of meters in the air, the menacing head of Manda hovered over them, gazing down at them with malicious intent. No way, muttered Jiraiya in shock. Why would he go back? Naruto frowned as he looked back at Manda and noticed the figures standing on top of his head. There were 3. First was Orochimaru, covered in bandages and gazing down at them with a furious glee in his eyes. In his right hand was his sword already out and ready to go. Next to him were 2 more figures. Interestingly enough, all 3 of them were wearing similar coats. They were black with red clouds. As Naruto looked closer, he recognized the 2 beside the snake. First was young, only 5 or so years older than himself. He was stoic and bared a striking resemblance of his teammate Sasuke. Itachi Uchiha gazed down at them with his Sharingan active and no emotion on his face. The second seemed particularly thrilled to be here. His skin was strangely blue, his teeth were sharp and shark-like, and there was a massive, bandaged sword hung from his shoulder. The monster of the hidden mist, the tailless-tailed beast, Kisame Hoshigaki, looked like Christmas had come early as he looked over the battlefield. Naruto wasn't sure what team or group they were a part of, but he wasn't excited to see 3 ninjas of their caliber on the same side against him. What a mess, muttered Naruto as he readied all his brainpower into summoning infinity. There has been a debate that has been around for as long as ninja have been killing each other. Since the first Senju killed the first Uchiha thousands of years ago, before many clans even existed. It was a simple question. Which ninja is the strongest? Over the centuries there were changes in what the best are called: special, elite, legendary, or just plain all strong. Unfortunately, it has never been an easy thing to figure out. During the era of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, the designations known as letter rankings were created by the lords of the 5 great countries to tier the clans they wanted to hire for work. This allowed them to measure what they were up against, who they needed to hire, and how much ninja were worth in payment. Originally, it ranged from D all the way to A. D being considered common and useful for non-ninja related jobs. These were ninja families with no real clan techniques or renown, usually first or second generation ninja trying to make it in the world. C were more renowned families, such as the Shimura clan, who were known for Winjutsu but only bolstered 1 or 2 strong ninjas. B and A encompassed the known clans of today. The Naras were A, B and Hyugas A. Clans with these ratings usually possessed a unique skill or bloodline that set them apart. However, the Uchiha and Senju clans broke the scale of A. The lords needed an entirely new grade to quantify them. Thus the designation of S was created, signifying special. From there it caught on to rank individuals by the same ranking system. But the questions remained the same even if the wording changed what constituted someone achieving S. Many debated that it was by killing elite ninja such as Jonin with ease. Others by amount of chakra, or jutsu knowledge and secret arts. While those factors came into it, the way someone achieved S was not by self-declaration but by public opinion, particularly by enemies. If a cage could declare their own ninja S, then there would be dozens and the scale would break. So today, for a ninja to be considered and accepted as S, then your enemy must overcome their pride, overcome their ego, and declare to the world that said person was so powerful that they were head and shoulders above the rest of the elite. Usually this was followed by anger, and a very high bounty. That being said, it was never cut and dry in who was the strongest. One S was not equal to another. The third Hokage being so far above his rival Kage that he was named the god of shinobi. The legendary Sannin were considered all Kage level in strength and reputation. Hanzo of the Salamanders was so feared and powerful, merely surviving a battle with him could make you a legend, see the Sannin for reference. Then there was Hashirama and Madara, again it was the Uchiha and Senju that broke the scales. Both of them in their time and to this day, were so powerful that entire nations feared their gaze. Thus, they were given the rank of S+, meaning they were completely otherworldly in power, no one bearing each other being a match. Even then, Hashirama won out and had been declared the strongest Kage in history and god of shinobi. Why was this important? It made the scales of strength clear in that there wasn't a set level and easy way to measure strength. Experience and personal knowledge as well as talent and intelligence come into play as well. A veteran could lose to a novice if the matchup was bad, a kunai could kill a Kage. Just because someone used water jutsu didn't mean they always won against someone using fire jutsu. Which brings focus back to the Battle of Tanzuka Hills. In a battle of 5 S-class ninja, all of which were declared above elite by the world. With abilities and power so great one of them could change a battlefield with their presence. This battle should have a clear winning side, since it was 3-on-2. It should be obvious. Should be. A grunt of pain sounded throughout the fields as Kisame Hoshigaki was choke-slammed into the ground by Jiraiya before being kicked into the distance through a distant hill. Orochimaru was being barraged by Naruto Uzumaki's ruthless hand-to-hand. Though it wasn't completely one-sided. Orochimaru had been declared a snake even before he debuted his summon partners. It was in his ruthlessly efficient methods of attack. Coiling then striking vital points, twisting and maneuvering around his opponents to disorientate them. He was as lethal and meticulous as the snakes he represented. Naruto had been forced to dodge and parry more attacks today than he ever had, though he was getting better. Orochimaru slashed towards Naruto's neck, but a single-handed hand seal raised by Naruto's right hand stopped the blade in its tracks. Then with his left he punched Orochimaru's gut, followed up with 2 rapid palm strikes to his stomach causing the snake to vomit blood and his bandages to start to slip from his head. Though the blonde wasn't finished, his 6 eyes flashed dangerously, and he fired a chakra enhancement jutsu, read right into Orochimaru's chest, crushing parts of his chest and causing his body to fly away in a blur. Naruto Uzumaki and Jiraiya of the Sannin were currently winning the 3v2. Strangely however, it wasn't a 3v2 as Itachi Uchiha, arguably the strongest of the three, was merely observing the fight and providing ranged support at odd intervals. Neither Naruto nor Jiraiya could figure out as to why Itachi hadn't jumped in yet, as Tsunade was still out of commission and an easy target to finish off. The decisive factor in this battle would be thus, would Itachi enter the battle before Tsunade? Naruto jumped back from where he just engaged Orochimaru and landed next to a furious Jiraiya. What's the plan? He asked while keeping his gaze fixed where their opponents were. I need to kill one of them, I don't think Tsunade will be much help. Jiraiya said lowly, Kisame is going to be the biggest problem with his sword, it has shaved quite a lot of chakra from me. Anymore and I won't be able to call for help. We're fortunate that they are just feeling us out right now, when that shark starts flooding the earth with rapid ranked jutsu we're going to be in for it. Naruto looked to where their enemies were regrouping and grimaced. Jiraiya was right, the shark man was going to be a difficult opponent to deal with. He was just too large of a problem to fight against alongside the other two since his specialty was endurance and large-scale jutsu. In combination with slippery and sneaky fighters like Orochimaru and Itachi, this could quickly become bleak. Leave Kisame to me, get whatever you're planning in action. Naruto declared with a frown. Jiraiya glanced at him. He's not an opponent that you just fight. He's got more chakra than any of the 5 kage and a sword that feeds him more. He warned. I got it. Naruto assured him with a grin, then warped away. Naruto landed in between the 3 ninjas, his chakra so dense and wild that the 3 ninjas stared at him seriously, each expecting some kind of massive attack that they would need to shield or avoid. However, his intention wasn't to take on all of them. I'm going to take the blue one, you two have fun. Naruto shouted with a killer grin as he blasted another point-blank red into Kisame that shot him out of the clearing into the surrounding forests. Interesting jutsu, Naruto Uzumaki. Commented Itachi as he emotionlessly watched his partner get blasted away. Naruto glanced at the Uchiha as he prepped his warp. Itachi Uchiha was an enigma, hailed as a once-in-a-generation genius in a clan of geniuses. Capable of insane feats, such as layering illusions over ninjutsu, 3 elemental masteries and proficient in the rest, and lethal in hand-to-hand to the point no one could figure out a weakness. His motivations and goals were just as mysterious. All Naruto knew about the man was that he was a psychopath that murdered his entire clan for power. Was meticulous in his actions, and most importantly, the largest threat on this field thanks to his eyes. Speaking of, Naruto noticed that as soon as he looked at him the Uchiha instantly tried to wrap him in half a dozen illusions. It was as if a swirling mass of chakra was shot from Itachi's eyes towards his own at light speed. Each tendril of chakra having a different frequency signifying a different illusion all intertwined together. It was reminiscent of a rope, with each thread a different jutsu. The premier genjutsu user of the leaf, Kurenai Yuhi, was capable of double layering illusions of B rank together. Something no one without a bloodline could do and was hailed as an elite for such. But to Itachi Uchiha, a genius of a clan full of geniuses, masterfully wielding a legendary bloodline tripled the feat with a mere glance. Naruto was completely impressed. No one should be able to instantly weave 6 genjutsu into one another and cast them at once. A single genjutsu of B rank were as complex as an advanced calculus equation. Doing 2 at once was worthy of renown and praise. No one was praising Itachi anymore, now he was just feared by all. But I'm not exactly normal either. Naruto thought with a grin. The 6 eyes broke down the incoming swirling mass of chakra, told him everything about it, and he completely negated the effects before they even took hold of him. Defeating a genjutsu was simple in theory, the toughest part was knowing you were in one and how deep. For Naruto, who could process advanced chakra mechanics at rapid levels, he merely needed to harden his chakra into a barrier around his body and not allow external chakra to penetrate it. Such was the advantage of his eyes, the ability to push away 3C rank and 3B rank genjutsu before they could even take root. Itachi's eyes widened as his attack was completely squashed by a smirking boy his little brother's age, before said boy teleported away after his partner. Interesting indeed, muttered Itachi before turning towards Jiraiya, who summoned 2 small toads to his shoulders. He narrowed his gaze with a minuscule frown. Orochimaru walked up with a glare, after having just vomited himself up 2 times over to heal the damage from Naruto's attacks. That boy, he then noticed Jiraiya in the distance with a grimace. That's a problem, Itachi. We need to coordinate to take on a sage of his caliber. Indeed. Naruto's mind was in a whirlwind as he warped into the clearing. He sent Kisame too. Instead of a groaning and smoldering shark man, he was met with a grinning Kisame-san's cloak sitting on a fallen tree with his massive, now unbandaged, sword Samahata next to him. When Orochimaru came to us after his laughable invasion, we doubted his words about you. Kisame said as he stood and cracked his neck. He said that you could give anyone a run for their money and would only become more of a problem thanks to those strange eyes you've awakened. Naruto listened to his words and noticed that yin chakra was being channeled throughout Kisame's body to heal his internal injuries and reduce his fatigue. It was different to Tsunade's methods. Hers was like using the most purified water to methodically wash something, leaving no streaks behind. Kisame's method lacked any and all finesse, instead relying brute force healing. It was akin to using a water dragon to clean a window. It gave Naruto an idea. I didn't think a blockhead like you would be able to use medical jutsu. Commented Naruto as he stretched his arms and neck, but if you can do that, at least you're going to last longer than I thought. He finished with a grin before getting into a stance. It's Samahata using stored chakra to heal and fix me, I'm not doing it. Grinned Kisame as he stood to his full height, nearing 7 feet tall and stacked with thick muscles making his frame dwarf Naruto's several times over. Don't die on me brat, we still need the fox within you. Naruto wasted no more time, he shot forward with blinding speed, nailing Kisame with a punch and a knee to the stomach right after. The massive sword was slammed into the ground where Naruto was standing but he was able to avoid it, not without feeling some chakra being pulled away. Samahata was swung in a wide arc that Naruto jumped over, then came down with a kick to Kisame's face who blocked the kick with a forearm. Pushing off the arm, a second kick was sent to the side of Kisame's head that was blocked by his headband-clad forehead causing a clang to sound out into the air. Naruto pushed 2 fingers into Kisame's grinning face and fired off a red point blank. The power was heavily reduced but still impacted Kisame sending him back a few meters. Kisame shot back towards Naruto with a savage grin and killing intent rolling off him in waves. Naruto took a deep breath at the pressure and prepared his next jutsu. At the tip of his finger he made a small orb of blue chakra. Let's see, thought Naruto as he fired off chakra jutsu, sinister spiraling shot. It was a small Rasengan that flew towards Kisame with incredible speed. For a ninja at a level below Jonin they wouldn't be able to follow its path with their eyes. However, Kisame was not below the level of a Jonin, so he slapped it away with his sword. The jutsu made impact for a moment before it was snuffed out against the blue scales of the legendary sword. Naruto shot forward and filled his arms with even more chakra than he did at his normal peak, but instead of internalizing it to enhance himself and potentially ruin his muscles he hardened it externally. It looked as if his arms were incredibly hot with a haze whiffing off his fists. Kisame didn't waste time and did an upward slash that tore through the ground as if it weren't there, sending debris into the air along with the massive blade. Naruto gritted his teeth and punched the incoming blade with all his strength. The impact of sword and fist clashed with a thunderous boom that distorted the air and sent a shockwave out that blasted all the loose debris away. While competitive, it was clear from the clash that Naruto was inferior in terms of raw strength as he felt his bones shudder under the force of the clash. Naruto, being the quicker of the two, recovered from the clash, jumped up and kicked Kisame in the face, giving himself more space. Hand seals were flashed through as Naruto prepped his next jutsu. Kisame, who was getting ready to reengage, he felt the air, no, the very world around him, start to shift. As the very world was pulled in on itself to overcome the lack of space created with the use of blue, Kisame was able to reduce the effects enough to get out of the way thanks to Samahata absorbing the power but not without taking damage. Naruto noticed that Kisame's only injury, a fractured leg, was being healed almost instantly thanks to his sword's stored chakra. The crude method of medical jutsu was still efficient enough to heal him in a matter of seconds. I see, I believe I understand how that sword works now. Naruto thought as his stance relaxed slightly. He's perfect. He thought with a smile that Kisame was unnerved by, as it wasn't malicious but thankful. The hell is with that smile, boy? You're creeping me out, Kisame said with a shark-like grin. He rested his massive sword on his shoulder. I'll admit your jutsu are strong, but they don't mean anything if Samahata eats all the power before it hits me. Naruto took a deep breath and held up a single-handed ram seal. Don't worry, I'm gonna start hitting you now, shark face. Naruto said as the chakra around him changed. Kisame blasted off the ground, cratering the earth beneath him, swinging his legendary chakra-eating sword at Naruto's face with murderous intent. Naruto raised his right arm to block the blow with his 6 eyes blazing. Kisame's eyes narrowed as the boy looked to block his sword with one arm. In a clash of strength he had already proven he was superior, and any chakra enhancement would die once he was close enough. As Samahata neared, Naruto planted his feet and took the hit, or rather it looked and felt as if he did to Kisame. The instant the sword got within an inch of Naruto it was completely stopped. Kisame glared, as if his sword was being stopped by the strongest shield in the world, but he could feel the chakra blocking him start to weaken. An instant later his sword made contact with Naruto's arm, shredding the sleeve and gouging out a chunk of skin, spraying blood into the air and onto the ground. Naruto shot forward and went on the offensive, not even acknowledging the damage. He punched forward, though his fist was blocked by Samahata. Kisame felt the same kind of resistance before, but the force from Naruto was managing to push him back. Until the chakra shield was weakened, and Kisame pushed back, taking more skin from Naruto and sending blood into the air. Kisame went to attack with a textbook two-handed swing downward that Naruto took with a X-shaped block. Like before, the same shield took the hit. Naruto pushed the attack away to the side, but at the end of the parry more skin and blood was taken from the blonde's arms. This back and forth continued for several exchanges till Naruto's arms, legs and chest were all leaking a large amount of blood. Through it all, Kisame was becoming more and more confused, for instead of becoming nervous and scarred, Naruto was becoming happier and happier with each exchange. He suspected that the blonde was trying to suppress his nerves and appear strong in the face of certain defeat. Till the grin of supreme confidence was back on Naruto's face. Kisame watched as Naruto, streams of blood trailing behind him as he rushed forward, neared him with a fist held at the ready. Kisame knew what to do. He'd done it dozens of times. He readied his sword and swung towards the blonde's midsection. Just like the other exchanges, the sword was stopped by the same invisible shield. However, unlike last time, there wasn't that split moment of the chakra being drained, allowing Kisame to damage the blonde. This time Naruto pushed forward, not even acknowledging the sword, and slammed a punch to Kisame's chest. Unlike previous punches from Naruto, whose power was based purely on physical enhancement from chakra enhancement, body. This time he had all of that force, behind the invincible jutsu infinity. Kisame's entire chest was cracked and broken from the hit, and he was blasted out of the small blood-soaked clearing into and through several trees. Kisame's Samahata absorbs chakra, but there is a limit on speed. I tested it with all my techniques, all of which have different areas of effect, speed, power and chakra types. Thanks to my eyes, I was able to figure out that he was the perfect training dummy for infinity. Speed is irrelevant for my jutsu if it's done right, after all it's literally time chakra. Clashing with Kisame gave me the perfect training to perfect my use of time chakra and control of infinity. Naruto thought with a grin as he wiped some blood from his face. He then moved to address his wounds. Steam began to rise from his body as he crudely healed all the wounds inflicted by Kisame. It was a partial mix of Tsunade and Kisame's methods of healing, however he did it in a bit of a different way. Unlike most medics whose top-level control allowed them to harness yin chakra to heal, Naruto could go a step further. He combined yin chakra and pure positive chakra together. Crude and inefficient at the moment since he was new to this, but it was healing him far more completely than he'd ever seen, since it was nearly twice as powerful as normal healing thanks to the positive chakra enhancing the yin chakra. With time he bet he could do this perfectly and in mere moments. For now this was enough. I can use infinity now. I can cover my body completely. Naruto thought with a satisfied smile. It takes a lot of focus to maintain, but this is a massive step forward, small torso-sized shield to my entire body. Naruto grinned as he looked to the west, the direction he sent the shark flying away. He felt a rumbling and sensed a metric ton of chakra being built up. Trees and stones were blasted into the air as something approached, destroying everything in its path. The air became humid, and trees were torn from the earth with thunderous rumbling. A massive blue shark of water blasted through the trees into the clearing at blinding speed. Instead of running or blocking, all Naruto did was hold his hand up in a single ram seal. A massive trench was ground into the earth in front and behind Naruto as the water shark impacted and blasted past him. The attack continued from one end of the clearing, through where it hit him, and to the other end, smashing and uprooting trees on the other end. After a few seconds the water stopped, the mist started to clear, and the ground was completely soaked. Kisame walked into the clearing with a serious frown on his face as he took in Naruto's completely unscathed appearance. That strange shield of chakra, how did I not break through it? Kisame couldn't help but ask as he walked closer. If Samahata could shave through it, then it shouldn't have held up. Naruto laughed. No, you've got it all wrong. My jutsu was being drained and weakened, not broken. I wasn't able to properly form it how it was supposed to be and needed practice getting it right. He explained while gesturing to the sword. Kisame instantly understood. You're a crazy kid, I'll give you that. He said with a savage grin. Using my blade Samahata to train a jutsu is a first. You even managed to heal all those wonderful reminders. Yep. I don't want to get more blood on my clothes, you know. Naruto replied while looking down at the remains of his hoodie and shirt, covered in holes and blood. He didn't look too great despite all the wounds having been healed. I'll say this now, I can't lose to you. I've figured out how to perfectly hold my jutsu under your blade's assault and with that have become capable of fully utilizing it. Kisame flashed through seals, we'll see about that. He shouted and manipulated all the water in the air and on the ground into a massive swirling vortex dozens of meters tall. Naruto stood in the epicenter of the incoming attack and watched it form with a bored expression. The vortex of water then tightened and collapsed in on top of Naruto. The sheer weight of the water would pulverize stone, much less the highly pressurized nature of the attack. The earth shuddered under the weight of the jutsu, but instead of dispersing the water that was covering Naruto in a swirling violent bubble, Kisame spawned dozens of sharks that rushed to eat the submerged blonde. Like before, all of the attacks that came within a few inches of Naruto were halted in place, never reaching him. While the jutsu weren't affecting him, Naruto was actually getting a bit worried about the lack of air. With a ram seal, Naruto pushed the effective range of infinity from a few inches off him to its current maximum diameter of 1 meter, giving him a bubble of breathing room. Maintaining infinity with at this range is very tough, something to work on if I have to protect someone else. Mused Naruto as he held firm under Kisame's never-ending assault of water sharks and now water drills. After a few moments the attacks were slowing down, and Naruto felt it was time to get back to it. A single seal and he warped out of the death bubble and was right behind a huffing Kisame. The shark man had no chance to dodge a spinning kick to his head that sent him tumbling away. Unlike before where Naruto let him recover and return to the fight, he continued his assault, shooting forward and landing atop Kisame with a double leg drop, cratering the ground, getting a silent scream of agony from him. Kisame didn't let it stop him for long, throwing himself to the side and rapidly getting to his feet with his sword out in front to protect him. He looked to where Naruto was a moment ago and frowned. The blonde was gone. You're not super fast. Kisame flinched at Naruto's words coming from directly behind him. The boy was standing back to back with him without a care in the world. In fact, I would say that is your biggest weakness. Here, let me elaborate. Kisame couldn't move in time as felt his kidneys get blasted by a viscous punch. While he was sent flying, it was a kick to the chest, a kick to the back, 5 punches to his face and upper chest, a spinning kick to his chin, a double hammer arm to the top of his head. Blood flew into the air as Naruto mercilessly beat Kisame at his absolute top speed. Samahata was long since thrown away by Naruto, who continued his barrage while Kisame could only block and defend. He's faster than before. Kisame thought as his skull rattled under a kick. I can say he may even be stronger, but it's more than that. It's like the difference in a metal gauntlet and a large fist. Even if thrown by someone weaker, the metal would hurt more. Whatever his jutsu protecting him is, it's making his attacks far more dangerous and solid. Naruto punched Kisame, causing him to spin, but reached out to grab his arm to hold him in place, then followed up with a ruthless barrage of palms to the shark's stomach, each getting blood to vomit from Kisame's mouth. Not done there, Naruto let the last hit propel Kisame into the air while he pointed his pointer and middle finger at him, forming a swirling ball of bright red chakra. Chakra enhancement jutsu. Red. He said as the airborne Kisame was fully hit by the jutsu, sending him flying away. The forest in the direction he fired his jutsu was completely ruined. No trees, stones, boulders, or loose earth were left in its wake as the shockwave tore the very world asunder. Naruto watched the outcome of his attack with a smile before blinking. Wait, did I send him back to the field with Jiraiya and the others? He said to himself with a blink. Oh, he said before warping in that direction. Naruto arrived back in the clearing to see Jiraiya and 2 shoulder-riding toads deadlocked against Orochimaru and Itachi. Orochimaru was blocking ranged water jutsu from the toads while Itachi was defending and attacking Jiraiya with a massive chakra avatar surrounding him. Naruto's eyes told him it was some innate jutsu related to the Sharingan that he wouldn't be able to mimic. A rumble was heard, getting the attention of the others as Kisame was blasted into the clearing through the trees, landing in a heap at the edge. Ha! I beat him here, that's hilarious, thought Naruto with a snicker. It was then that everyone noticed his return as well. Hey! Naruto greeted with a smile. Boy! Get out of here, it's too dangerous for a youngin' like you, shouted the female toad on Jiraiya's shoulder. Now, ma. He's clearly Jiraiya boy's student. He must know what's going on. The male toad responded. Right, Jiraiya boy. Naruto jumped in. Yeah, I'm fine. These weaklings aren't a problem for me. Jiraiya sighed and jumped closer to the blonde. As he landed, his enhanced sensory abilities from his sage jutsu allowed him to feel the chakra around Naruto at a heightened level. You've mastered it, Jiraiya muttered in awe. Naruto waved him off. I wouldn't say that, but I'm loads better than I was before. Kisame was actually perfect for training. Only you. Jiraiya said with a shake of his head. Well, in that case, let's finish up here. He declared with a grin that was mirrored on Naruto's face. Gladly. The battlefield quieted down. The return of the monster of the hidden mist, Kisame Hoshigaki and the rising star and wild card, Naruto Uzumaki shook things up. So all parties involved decided to regroup and figure out how to proceed. On the side of the Akatsuki, Itachi Uchiha exhaled as he released his chakra avatar and turned to his slowly rising partner. Even without his Sharingan he would have been able to see the wounds covering his body. Itachi was certain that the factor that would decide this battle wasn't Jiraiya and his devastating sage jutsu, or the two sages atop his shoulders assisting him. No, it would in fact lay with Naruto's capabilities and whatever happened between himself and Kisame. Whatever occurred in their battle resulted in one of the most dangerous men in the world being laid out and Naruto looking fine. It would take a couple of minutes for Kisame's sword to get him back to his feet. Orochimaru wasn't in top shape. The injuries from his battle with the third Hokage had strained his coils to the point that most of his jutsu arsenal was out of reach. He would remain a chaotic factor for the Leaf Ninja, sliding in and out with devastating poisons in his blade, but he wasn't going to be a large factor in the head-to-head fighting. As of now his own chakra reserves were holding up. He would need to be careful on how much he used the Mangekyo Sharingan. He didn't need to go blind too early lest long-laid plans go up in flames. Orochimaru. Itachi turned to his consternated comrade who was glaring at the young blonde. Listen closely. Across the battlefield Naruto and Jiraiya were catching their breath. Naruto spoke lowly. Right now I have it, but it takes enough focus that I need to constantly maintain it. Which means. Jiraiya nodded. You can't use other jutsu. He said with a hum. Still, they shouldn't have a way to get through it, so I'll support you as you blitz them. Have what down? Asked the male toad calmly. The female was more irate. Why is a youngin in a battle like this, Jiraiya? These are the boogeymen of the ninja world. Not something a child should be involved in. Naruto would be offended if he couldn't tell that much of her anger was based on worry. Jiraiya groaned. I don't have time to explain Ma, but Naruto is more than capable of holding his own. He fought Kisame himself earlier. He explained, trying to placate her. Ma's tongue shot out and whacked in him on the head. He did what? She shouted. Now Ma, no need to be angry at Jiraiya boy. We should trust his judgment. Thanks Pa. Jiraiya said with a smile. Naruto turned to them. Done. He asked with a raised eyebrow, because I don't think they plan on letting you three work this out. He said while gesturing to a now refreshed Kisame with Samahata attached to his back and a furious expression on his face as he built up a truly titanic amount of chakra. We can't let him go unchecked. Shouted Naruto as he blasted forward, Jiraiya moving to follow. Where is the old lady? He asked, suddenly realizing that she wasn't even in the clearing. Shizune got her away. She has two toads guarding her if there are any more sound ninja in the area. Answered Jiraiya while looking towards the direction where Shizune went. Got it. Orochimaru's sword extended right in front of Naruto, moving to stab him right through the chest. Naruto let it hit infinity and pushed past it without skipping a beat. As he neared the snake, whose sword was already back to normal, he was accosted by both Itachi and Kisame on either side. Samahata was trying its darndest to saw through infinity while Itachi was stabbing it with a kunai while his piercing Sharingan took in everything about his jutsu it was able to see. Naruto ignored Kisame, who was then slammed into by Jiraiya and went to punch Itachi. He was vaguely aware of Orochimaru moving to assist Kisame. As Naruto's fist moved towards Itachi, he took in the opponent he felt was the deadliest on the enemy side. The genius of the Uchiha clan's taijutsu was once described to be as majestic as a river. His movements so fluid and perfect that he was untouchable by any that weren't the very best of Jonin. Naruto's fist was parried at the wrist and redirected to the side, his other hand was back-fisted towards Naruto's jaw the instant his attack was mitigated. However, as the attack was about to connect it was stopped in place. Odd, thought Naruto with a grimace. Not even stopping to acknowledge it, Itachi pulled back, made a single hand sign, then went to attack again, his fist covered in swirling chakra. Naruto's eyes noticed that the chakra swirling over his fist was fire in nature. Like before, Itachi's attack was halted by infinity while Naruto moved to attack. Itachi weaved around Naruto's punch and the follow-up kick, eyes glowing an eerie red. His arms blurred and from them a dozen shuriken flew through the air towards Naruto, who sighed and let the shuriken impact his barrier. The instant the shuriken touched his infinity he was blasted in the back by a double drop kick from Itachi, the force of it not getting through infinity, but Naruto's eyes widened at losing sight of Itachi and feeling the hit through his barrier. I think, Naruto wondered as Itachi sped back away from him as he moved to re-engage. Itachi may in fact be faster than me, he is certainly slippery. I'll have to be smart. My eyes won't lose him again. Itachi flashed through hand signs and in an instant released a roaring fire dragon that superheated the air around them so much that steam rose into the air from the small droplets left over from Kisami's jutsus. The massive fire dragon crossed the half-dozen meters between them, lighting and turning the grass beneath it to ash instantly. Naruto could tell that even a glancing blow from this jutsu would kill a normal ninja. He raised a single hand sign and let the fire dragon impact his infinity with a frown. As expected, the jutsu was halted in place and the parts of the jutsu that were too large and didn't come into contact with his infinity blew right past him, igniting the rest of the area on fire. Naruto closed his eyes and with a grimace weaved the three hand signs to warp to the other side of the clearing to get away from the epicenter of the jutsu. As soon as he landed from the warp, he was stabbed through the chest from behind by Orochimaru. Naruto coughed a glob of blood and turned to glare at the now smirking snake. So it was a clone chasing Jiraiya. It did look odd to me, that nature chakra is strange. Commented Naruto while glaring down at the sword emerging from his chest. Luckily, he wasn't hit anywhere vital. Likely the goal was to be hit by the sword for the paralytic poison rather than to kill him. Itachi moved towards them slowly, eyes still glowing as he dissected Naruto. Now Naruto, I believe I'll be taking those eyes. Orochimaru hissed with a gleeful look on his face. Tell me, how does it feel to lose so spectacularly after feeling so confident? Naruto grinned with a trail of blood falling from his mouth. Oh, I'll be alright, I think I understand what Itachi was going for. This will be the last battle, it works. Naruto explained with a grin that didn't hide the fury in his eyes as he stared directly at Itachi. So you've realized your weakness? Itachi asked rhetorically. I will admit I was wary of this strange barrier around you. But I believe I have two ways to overcome it. No jutsu is perfect, everything has a weakness, Naruto. The blonde merely rolled his eyes at Itachi, then looked over his shoulder to Orochimaru. Thanks for the breather, I'm ready to get going again. He said with an easy-going smile. The snake glared, what do you? Itachi's mind and eyes worked in a flash and moved to rush forward with a frown. However, Naruto was too fast. With his neck muscles straining and his teeth clenched, Naruto closed both his fists and then quickly swiped them outward with his hands open. To the naked eye, no visible chakra was seen to explain what was happening. To Itachi, who with the Sharingan was able to see chakra, he was able to glimpse at the jutsu Naruto used and felt the hairs on his neck stand up. In the next instant both Orochimaru and Itachi were sent flying in opposite directions as if they were being yanked by the strongest magnet in the world. Both were sent tumbling towards the edges of the clearing. While Naruto moved to heal himself, he was unable to remove the poison completely, but he wasn't in any danger of locking up anymore. Naruto looked down at his hands with a relived smile. That was a gamble made on assumptions and theories in the heat of the moment. His math was done too quickly to be perfect, and he had never really done that before, but it was technically easier than his normal application of that jutsu. Blue is a strange jutsu. The deadliest application is through hyper-condensing negative chakra in a single point of space to create a negative space zone that reality will immediately rush to fill, thereby causing a condensing collapse of space like a miniaturized black hole. However, at its base level it is influencing space through vectors. With my warp jutsu, I can remove the space between two things, myself and another point in space. Something so difficult it takes me hand signs to do. At an easier level of this jutsu, I can move things through space by using the initial target as point 1 and removing the distance between another point or myself as point 2. Naruto grinned at the slowly rising Uchiha and Snake. I can essentially move them through space, not really offensive unless I smash them into something. But it is really disorientating. The six eyes flared menacingly. Naruto pointed his open hand towards Itachi, then pulled it back and clenched his fist, pulling Itachi off his feet back to him at high speeds. Itachi pulled up his guard and absorbed Naruto's downward fist that distorted the air around them. The Uchiha grimaced and Naruto grinned ferally, feeling the cracking of bones. Orochimaru made himself known once again and his sword was stopped by a now reactivated infinity. And was then punched into the ground, causing Orochimaru to immediately vomit a new body that was coughing blood. Naruto went to stomp his skull in but noticed Itachi returning with bright flaming orange chakras swirling around him and jumped away. Something is off about that chakra, it's the same as that avatar from before, Naruto thought warily. Naruto moved his arm to stop the incoming attack from Itachi with a frown. The instant Itachi's fist came into contact with infinity, there was a moment before his fist broke through, impacting against Naruto's forearm block. The chakra of the Yata mirror, my second method, Naruto. Itachi said with his Mangekyo Sharingan blazing red. Naruto pointed a palm at Itachi, blasting him off his feet. I see. Earlier he managed to take advantage of my inexperience with infinity and attack right after I blocked something and was focusing on that while the opposite side was subconsciously weakened. Now this Yata mirror chakra, something from that avatar he can coat his hands in. It seems to somehow possess the amazing ability to nullify any type of chakra that it comes into contact with. Naruto felt a bead of sweat fall down his forehead before he smirked. But like me with infinity, he can use that chakra or his regular jutsu, not both, and unlike infinity, his is much more obvious when he's using it. Naruto got into a stance and dissected Itachi with his six eyes. Itachi on the other end of the clearing was taking slow breaths while reigniting the orange chakra of the Yata mirror. Neither of them acknowledging Orochimaru slithering away. Jiraiya stomped on the ground and made a snake hand sign, causing a large wall of solid stone to rise from the earth to block the tidal wave of water. He jumped to the top of the wall to see Kisame blasting across the water, sword in hand with a menacing smile. He's relentless, shouted Ma in disbelief. Jiraiya just got done pounding him into the ground. Jiraiya weaved two hand signs and the ground beneath the water exploded with so much force all the water was blasted into the air and over the forest, creating a mock downpour for a few moments. Not breaking a sweat, Jiraiya weaved four more and extended both palms towards a falling Kisame. From his hands two bright blue bolts of lightning cut through the air towards the shark. Kisame managed to slap one with Samahata but took the other, causing him to scream in pain. Samahata was working overtime to convert the chakra into healing energy, but the chakra being used by Jiraiya was slowing the sword down. Right as he reoriented himself from the shock, Kisame looked up to see a massive Rasengan coming down on him. It took every ounce of willpower and strength to jump and speed out of range. Even then, the explosion of force from the jutsu hitting the ground took him off his feet, sending him flying into a tree, uprooting it. Jiraiya noticed Kisame was sent into the forest and sighed. His blade is very slow to convert sage chakra into usable energy to heal him. Pa rubbed his goatee. I'm shocked he can do that much. Suppose whoever made that sword really knew their way around sealing jutsu and chakra mechanics. We need to go back up, Naruto. He's fighting those two on his own, can't you sense it? Shouted Ma worriedly. Orochimaru isn't in top condition, so he's more of an annoyance right now. Itachi and Kisame are the problems. Jiraiya said seriously. Pa, can you sense Tsunade? She must be out of range for me. Pa hummed, you need to come finish your training, Jiraiya boy. She's 400 meters east, with Shizune girl and those troublesome twins. Good. I was worried about leaving them on their own. Three massive water drills blasted into the air, cutting through the distance towards Jiraiya. He didn't recognize the exact jutsu being used, but the pressure and density would rend metal effortlessly. Needless to say, he should probably do something about those. Jiraiya of the Sannin, the sage from the mountains, the wandering toad, the super pervert from the leaf. Many names, many legends, strangely it was rarely his power jutsu that got him his accolades. The Battle of the Sannin versus Hanzo of the Salamanders was where he and his teammates attained their titles and shortly after was dubbed S-class by the world. But it was on his battles won, never on some unwinnable jutsu. He wasn't Minato with two perfect jutsu making him fearless across the world, or the third who knew practically everything. No. Jiraiya of the Sannin's power came from his experience in battle and his lack of care in being flashy. Despite his personality, when it was time to work, he was focused and got the job done. As the three water drills descended onto Jiraiya, he waited to the last moment before rocketing off the rock wall he was standing on and closing distance to Kisame, who was already focusing chakra for the next jutsu. The two toads shot bullets of water and wind at the drills to dissipate them while Jiraiya focused on the shark. Kisame slapped the water he and Jiraiya were standing on and hundreds of sharks were created from the depths and rushed to shred the three-toed sages. Three-hand signs, a flare of chakra. Kisame noticed it was the strange thick chakra that Samahata was having trouble filtering beneath nearly 10 meters of dense water. The earth erupted in a massive explosion. Sage art. Land devastation, thought Jiraiya. Not a jutsu he typically used, but Kisame wasn't an opponent that was going to be taken down subtly. The water was blasted into east and west, creating a thick mist in the air in the entire clearing. The earth-rattling explosion was muted beneath the large pool of water, but everyone in attendance felt their bones shake from the force. The ground beneath them was a massive, jagged crater that looked as if 100 paper bombs detonated at once. Both Kisame and Jiraiya found themselves falling nearly 20 meters, however only one of them was caught unawares. Jiraiya held a single tiger hand sign and blasted a large flame bullet at Kisame, who screamed in pain until he crashed onto the ground. Samahata a few feet away was wiggling to reconnect to its master to begin healing him. Another 4 hand signs and a ring of light shone from the ground around Kisame before exploding in a small bubble of fire. He won't be out from that, but he won't get up too soon. The aftereffects of the earth and water will hit Naruto's battlefield for sure. Hopefully Shizune and Tsunade were far away enough. Right as Jiraiya was about to move to finish off Kisame, he felt at the very edge of his sage senses a malevolent presence rapidly approaching Tsunade and Shizune. It only took him a moment to deduce that it was Orochimaru. His chakra was twisted and warped, but he could still recognize him. "We have to go," muttered Jiraiya, getting strange looks from the toads before they stretched their senses and nodded. Before rushing away, Jiraiya slapped the ground during the ruined earth into a hyper-dense bog that was slowly working to swallow Kisame. If anything, it would slow him down even more. Jiraiya sped through the forests, each step destroying the branches beneath his feet as he moved to gain more and more speed. "Hurry, Jiraiya boy, he's been on them for over 2 minutes," shouted Pa with a worried expression. Jiraiya's face soured and he felt he was about to be on them as he smashed through a tree with a powerful punch and landed upon the 3 ninjas, his eyes widening in horror. Orochimaru was standing over a grimacing Tsunade who had his blade through her gut. Shizune, clearly in distress, was working to heal Orochimaru with the weasel Kabuto assisting with his smug grin. He felt a twisted satisfaction at seeing the dried blood on Kabuto's face and shirt from where Naruto smashed him. "Ah, Jiraiya, right on time," Orochimaru said with his nasty smirk. "Young Shizune has learned so very much from Tsunade. I was under the impression only Tsunade would be able to heal me, but alas, the student was enough. Marvelous, isn't it?" He wiggled his sword, getting a groan from Tsunade. "Don't get too close, they're doing a delicate procedure and I wouldn't want to hurt our dear teammate anymore." Jiraiya glared. "Let me guess, this was the plan from the start. Kisame and Itachi to stretch Naruto and I thin, your lackey and his soldiers to spread us out. All to get to Tsunade when we were busy with the other 2. So there is a brain in there, very good." Orochimaru said with a chuckle. "Yes, that was my plan. Itachi and Kisame are here to confirm my intel on Naruto. My colleagues are going to need a lot of intel to retrieve the 9 tails from him after all." "You really went crawling back to the Akatsuki?" Jiraiya asked with no small amount of surprise. Orochimaru nodded. "Indeed. I am unfortunately not enough to deal with all my enemies on my own. Something I learned in my invasion. I was set to deal with Sensei, As strong as he turned out to still be, till Naruto decided to ruin things. Not to mention the goals of the Akatsuki and their leader are truly fascinating. Any chance you'd tell your former teammate what those are? Jiraiya asked with a flat expression. Orochimaru chuckled, why would I do that? Jiraiya shrugged with a smile, worth a shot. Right as he said that a spear of earth shot from the ground separating Orochimaru from Tsunade and Shizunen blitzed to cross the distance and stand between them. Kabuto stood at the side of Orochimaru and scanned his body. While not a full recovery, you are far better off. We can certainly treat you from here without them. Good. Then let us deal with Jiraiya. Orochimaru said with killing intent rolling off him. Jiraiya took a deep breath. I'm going to need you here, Tsunade. You're more than capable of healing from that wound and helping me out here. It won't be long before Kisame joins us, and I can't deal with both of them and protect you. He said lowly. Right on cue, Kisame blasts into the clearing, shredding through a tree with Samahata. You're going to die, you old wart. He shouted. His chakra was visible as it covered his body in a blue aura and weighed down on everyone in the clearing with its sheer size. Jiraiya was able to finally confirm that Kisame truly was a tailed beast. Jiraiya boy, we should retreat if Tsunade girl can't fight, said Pa seriously. Right as things were going to get bad for Jiraiya, a massive orange chakra avatar was blasted through the tree line, shaking the earth under the force and weight. Itachi in the center of the avatar coughed roughly as he stood to his feet. A blood-soaked Naruto stood atop a tree breathing heavily as he stared down at Itachi and took in the scene around him. Naruto sped over to Jiraiya. Itachi is a handful, he's got ways around infinity. As he spoke, Naruto began to slowly heal himself. Itachi was receiving aid from Kabuto on the other side as well. What? Jiraiya asked incredulously. He has a jutsu unique to his Mangekyo Sharingan that seals the chakra of infinity to let him hit me. Naruto said with a petulant frown. Jiraiya shook his head. Well, no jutsu is perfect. I'm aware, shouted Naruto. The steam from his injuries tapered off as he finished healing. Jiraiya eyeballed the now closed wounds with a critical eye. Are you healing yourself? Shizune gaped at Naruto, having been silently gathering herself after Orochimaru's sudden appearance, then Jiraiya, then the rest of them. Naruto showing up covered in wounds then healing himself somehow wasn't that surprising anymore. Unseen was the twitch of Tsunade's fingers. Naruto nodded. Yeah. See, I was watching Tsunade heal herself that night, then Kisame and Samahata's healing method. I decided to copy them and add my own flair. Tsunade's twitch became stronger. I heal with yin chakra, which has been enhanced by positive-natured chakra. It's like super healing. Naruto shouted with a massive grin on his face. Idiot. A small voice muttered, getting the three ninjas' attention. Naruto turned to a now awake and deadpan Tsunade who was looking at him like he was an enormous moron. His face turned comically disgusted. Huh. I can't hear you down there. Naruto shouted. Tsunade's eyebrow twitched as she sat upright to glare at Naruto's face. You're an idiot for using that combination of chakra to heal yourself. Tsunade explained haughtily. If you think you're the only one to look into positive-natured chakra, you're a fool. If you keep doing it, then you're going to fry your chakra coils and possibly your brain. Why should I trust the word of a weak, defenseless old woman that needs us to protect her? Naruto asked with a laugh as he smirked down at her. Jiraiya next to them was watching with a hopeful and amused expression while both Toads and Shizune gaped at the exchange. Tsunade's temper, something that in her 50s she usually had a good lid on, except it would seem when concerning Naruto. In her anger at the young blonde's lack of respect, she shot to her feet and headbutted him, causing him to sway back. So shocked at what happened he didn't even raise infinity. Naruto blinked a few times as Tsunade glared down at him. I know more about healing and the human body than anyone alive, especially not some up-jumped twerp who won the genetic lottery. Laughing to himself, he got to his feet and smiled at her. I like the energy, but let's focus on them, huh? Naruto said as he pointed to the three Akatsuki members that were moving to attack. Kisame roared and blasted a massive tidal wave in their direction. Shizune's small gasp was ignored as Naruto and Jiraiya tilted their heads to figure out the best course to deal with the incoming attack. The massive wave of water loomed over them, easily 15 meters tall. The force and size of the jutsu would easily be considered A rank. Naruto smiled in amusement. It would seem that while being fellow 7 ninja swordsman of the mist, Kisame was leagues beyond Zabuza. Oh, give me a break! Shouted Tsunade as she shot forward. Her arms were glowing with flaming green chakra. As the massive tidal wave started to crest over them, casting an ominous shadow over the ground of Leaf Ninja. Tsunade arrived at the base of the tidal wave, reared back and sent forth a devastating punch. Naruto's 6 eyes glowed as his face split into a massive grin before laughing wildly. Jiraiya rubbed his head with a chuckle. Shizune's eyes were awed by the display of her master. The two-toed sages gaped at her monstrous strength. The massive tidal wave, that would wipe out a village under the force of its size and volume, was obliterated by a single punch. First a massive hole through the point of contact, then the shockwave from the punch blasted the rest of the water away. Orochimaru's form emerged from the mist, his sword missing as he weaved through hand signs. From around him a hurricane-force gale windstorm erupted into life, shredding through ground and closing distance in a blink. Naruto snorted at the attack. He quickly grabbed Shizune and Jiraiya and landed next to Tsunade before flexing Infinity's shell into a dome around the 4 of them plus 2 toads. What in the, muttered Shizune as they were completely safe from Orochimaru's jutsu while the entire clearing was torn to shreds. It was barely a blur of motion that the 6 eyes caught of Itachi appearing in front of the barrier of infinity. Right as the orange chakra was to impact his perfect shield, he released the jutsu and met Itachi's attack with a glowing fist of his own. Their mutual impact sent a small shockwave through the immediate area. Jiraiya slapped the ground, causing dozens of stone spikes to rise from the ground, targeting Orochimaru, Itachi, Kisame and Kabuto. All 4 of them were forced to jump away rapidly to avoid being impaled repeatedly. I'll take Itachi, Naruto said with a smile. Tsunade and Shizune whipped their head towards him in alarm. Oh, don't give me that. None of you can deal with the genjutsu he can cast. Take care of the old bat and Shizune, Naruto shouted to Jiraiya, getting an uneasy laugh from him as the 2 women glared at him. 3 hand signs and he warped away to where Itachi was recentering himself from the onslaught of earth spears. Itachi lowered himself and reactivated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto smiled and mimicked his stance. 2 ninja hailing from the same village. Coming from prestigious great clans. Wielding ocular jutsu of immense power. Hailed as geniuses with untold potential. Neither, since coming into their own, had truly been pushed. Now as Sharingan and 6 eyes stared at each other for a moment, then both let out a grin. Naruto shot forward and Itachi matched. They met in a flurry of punches and kicks. They had found a rival. Itachi jumped up, a shadow clone emerging from behind him, both weaving hand signs at dizzying speeds. Naruto's eyes deciphered that it was a combo of wind and fire coming. 2 streams of the respective element shot from Itachi and his clone's mouth. The streams swirled and combined into a white-hot beam of fire that superheated the environment. Naruto activated Infinity and let the attack dissipate with a sigh. Itachi blurred behind him at the exact opposite end of where the jutsu impacted and went to stab it with a kunai. Naruto knew, unfortunately from experience, that the kunai would be able to break through. Right as the kunai touched the barrier, he released it and spun around with a Rasengan in hand. Itachi couldn't avoid the spiraling sphere and the swirling blue chakra attack smashed into his chest. Naruto smirked and jumped straight into the air as the Rasengan destroyed the clone and the real Itachi smashed into the ground where he was standing. Itachi was forced to block a punch and parry a kick, then counter-punched Naruto, who swayed around the hit. Naruto jumped back while flicking his hand towards Itachi, who encased himself in his chakra avatar to take the hit from blue. As soon as the avatar appeared, Naruto smirked and concentrated on forming a dense red. Itachi had his Susanoo raised his second sacred treasure Totsuka blade and swiped it down towards Naruto. Naruto's forehead dripped with sweat as he charged a fist-sized red and shot it towards the avatar, hoping that like last time it would be enough. The shockwave from the jutsu impacted against the ethereal blade, dissipating it and smashing into the chest of the avatar. Itachi roared and increased the armor of his guardian and held his ground. As the shockwave hit the Susanoo, Naruto moved to get to its flank and create a truly massive Rasengan. Easily double the size of Naruto himself and smash it into the unprotected and unfocused side of the massive orange chakra avatar. Unlike red that was like a straight line of pure force, the impact of a Rasengan was like a bomb and a drill combined together. One of this size detonating was enough for the entire side of the Susanoo to crack and shatter open, while everything in over 100 meters was blasted away and the ground tremored under them. Itachi's eyes bled from the effort as he spun to Naruto, who managed to break into his perfect invincible defense. Something that should be impossible. Naruto didn't stop by breaking in him, pulled Itachi towards him with a gesture, then smashed him in the face with a devastating left. Itachi's brain rattled as he suffered from the attack. Then, rivals don't just push someone to get stronger. Rivals can also be inspiration. Itachi's mind cleared and the concussion left him in a second as he grabbed Naruto, spun him and threw him away. Steam rose from his body and his glassy eyes resharpened. Having seen it several times, is it any question that the genius Itachi? Naruto wiped blood from his mouth and grinned. "You bastard, you copied my healing," he said with a laugh. Renewed, the two shot back at one another. Naruto flicked his finger and Itachi was forced to jump from where a sinister spiraling sphere impacted the ground. Naruto jumped to meet him and punched him right in the kidney. Itachi responded by grabbing the fist and slamming a knee into Naruto's face, sending them both plummeting to the ground. Unlike Naruto, who preferred fighting alone, Tsunade, Jiraiya and Shizune stayed in the clearing together. "Sharky is mine," Jiraiya said before stomping on the ground, causing dozens of stone fists to fly at Kisame, who gleefully smashed them one by one with his sword. Orochimaru regurgitated his sword and moved to kill Tsunade. Said woman just looked at him blankly. The swipe of the poison blade was ducked under, then grabbed by her. She didn't even flinch at the poison or the blood as she pulled Orochimaru closer. With immense reluctance, Orochimaru let go of his prized sword. Tsunade chucked then with all her power threw the sword towards the horizon. She then kicked off the ground to close distance with the snake. Orochimaru hissed as he moved to meet her in hand-to-hand. While Orochimaru has been an active combatant while Tsunade was retired, Orochimaru slithered around Tsunade's opening combo and moved to counter with a knife hand to her throat. Tsunade grabbed his wrist, then ham-fisted him into the earth, causing the ground to shake from the force. Tsunade was regarded as a goddess of the fist, and time had not dulled her edge. Orochimaru coughed blood as he was smashed by 3 punches. She kneed him in the gut, then kicked him away. The snake instantly regurgitated himself to heal some of his shattered bones. He was running low on snake shells to heal himself, so he would need to let the others know it was a mission accomplished. Turning to the side, he noticed that Kisame was sans sword and just took a Rasengan to the stomach. Right as he was about to get moving, Tsunade came falling from the sky with a raised leg for one of her signature attacks. Orochimaru knew what was coming and moved as fast as he possibly could. He shot a snake out that he used like a rope to pull himself out of the way of the epicenter, but he was still sent tumbling away. He didn't give himself a second to recover and shot up to attack his former teammate. Foregoing hand-to-hand, he shot a dozen snakes towards her. Not even pausing to watch the fallout, he weaved through a half-dozen hand signs and chopped the air in a downward motion. Tsunade just finished killing the last snake when her senses screamed to move. She managed to avoid her head being hit, but a blade of wing shredded through her shoulder, severing her right arm. Without a scream of pain, she held a hand sign and released the seal on her forehead, causing a swirling line of black chakra to cover her forehead and body. She reattached her arm and all her injuries were healed in an instant. "Time for you to die, Orochimaru. We've borne your disgrace long enough," she declared as her body glowed with chakra, and she shot forward to finish the traitorous snake once and for all. As her fist blasted through his chest, his body turned into mud. She looked around the clearing and noticed that Orochimaru was harassing Jiraiya enough that Kisame was able to heal enough to run away. In her expert opinion, Kisame was going to need weeks of rehabilitation even with a skilled medic helping him. Jiraiya groaned as he smashed yet another mud clone, revealing that the real Orochimaru was gone. "How'd they get away?" he asked with a shake of his head. Both the Toad Sages dismissed themselves when the fighting was finished. Tsunade walked up to him with a tired sigh. "Orochimaru has always been a slippery one. I'll be sure to send the Alpha Squad after him when I'm in office." Jiraiya turned to her with a curious expression. "So you're coming back?" he asked as they walked over to where Shizune was taking shelter. "I feel like I have no other choice," she said with a snort. You're hopeless without me, and the brat is going to kill himself using complex chakra mechanics on his body, on top of being a little disrespectful brat. Jiraiya let out a full belly laugh. That's Naruto alright. Tsunade glared at him. Don't laugh. There's a strong possibility that he causes a war with that attitude. We need to have a firm hand with him, she argued, while Jiraiya raised his arms in surrender. Shizune moved to Tsunade's side with a relieved smile. She looked at the two of them for a moment before frowning. Where is Naruto? Naruto's face rippled from the force of Itachi's orange chakra-cladded fist. He responded with a kick to Itachi's knee that destabilized his stance, allowing for Naruto grab Itachi's arm then spin-throw him away. Itachi sent a massive fireball at him without a single hand sign. Naruto pointed a palm at the incoming jutsu, then a spark of blue chakra sparked across his hand. The force of jutsu destroyed the center of the fireball that caused the rest of it to dissipate. He weaved 3 hand signs in a blink to warp behind Itachi. With a pulling motion, Itachi was yanked off his feet into a kick from Naruto. Itachi coughed from the kick, then threw a handful of shuriken from his sleeve that Naruto was forced to block with infinity. Orange chakra swirling to life, Itachi moved to engage the blonde through infinity. Itachi punched through the chakra shield, smashing into Naruto's solar plexus. Both of them engaged in a flurry of punches and kicks. While Itachi was the far better combatant, Naruto was able to bridge some of the distance between them with applications of blue and Rasengan variations. Itachi sighed before throwing dozens of smoke bombs on the ground. Naruto blinked a few times and rapidly looked around, his 6 eyes working overtime to decipher what Itachi's next move was. He readied himself to summon a red if the avatar was about to return in full glory. After a fully 2 minutes, Naruto stood up with a frown. What the, did he fucking run? Naruto shouted in disbelief. No. They accomplished their mission. Came the shout of Jiraiya in the distance as he and the 2 women walked into the ruined clearing. Naruto popped up in front of them from a warp. Well, I guess all that's left is to knock the old bat out and drag her home. Shizune, you can walk if you behave. Behave? Shizune muttered as she glared at him. While Tsunade rolled her eyes. I'm going home, brat. She said after a deep breath. It's time I move on, and make sure a fool like you doesn't kill themselves or cause another war. Naruto looked at her with a disgusted expression. I'm not going to start a war. You will if you keep with your fundamental irreverence to everyone around you. I respect plenty of people. If you say Jiraiya, I'm going to throw up. Hey. As the curtain closed on what will be known as the Battle of Tanzuka Hills. Several people, hidden under seals and hidden jutsu, made their way home to report to their superiors. As the excitement from the battle died down, the 4-leaf ninja made their way back to town. Jiraiya was completely uninjured. He was worried at the beginning that his low reserves would cost him, but summoning the elders allowed them to feed him chakra. He subtly glanced at Tsunade. He kept his full sage mode back as he didn't want to look like an ugly toad for her. Not that he needed it. Kisame was a danger to most, but he wasn't one of them. Large water jutsu weren't all that threatening to a master of the earth, not when he had nature chakra filling him up. My lady, are you okay? Asked Shizune as she took in her master's disheveled state and dried blood. Tsunade nodded and rubbed her shoulder. That snake ripped my arm off, but my jutsu healed me right up. Still hurt though. She responded before turning to Jiraiya. You okay, you old fool? Jiraiya offered her a small grin. Not a scrape, princess. She turned to the blonde whose back was to them. And you brat. Are you hurt? Is your head feeling alright? Blurry vision. Naruto glanced at her for a second. I'm fine. I need to go. I'll meet the 3 of you in town. Without waiting for a response, he warped out of the clearing. Tsunade frowned. What was that all about? She asked. Shizune looked worried. I think he's going back to the area where those mutated ninja were. She said sadly. He mentioned that he could tell it wasn't voluntary, and killed them quickly. Jiraiya looked down sadly. He arrived at the battle quite upset. Tsunade looked at him with a frown. I need to have a talk with him, and we need to check his brain. Both Shizune and Jiraiya turned to her in surprise. The battle was hard fought. He had to go to the very deep end to get his infinity to work against Kisame. Then there was Itachi's ability with the chakra avatar. The ability to negate chakra and the ability to seal anything away was an absurd combination. All these tough confrontations had done the amazing job of forcing him to not think about what he went through beforehand. Naruto, a hole in the ground with a sigh. Since that day in the forest his mind has been clearer, like looking through a freshly cleaned window after months of neglect. Not to mention his natural excitement for battle and showing off his strength. He had never killed before his six eyes awakened either. Not since his mind cleared up and he started to mature a bit. Even before he knew it would be an eventuality, it wasn't supposed to happen for Genin. Yet, after his awakening he was put in fights where death was inevitable, and if he was right, he was going to only be put in fights where death was the conclusion going forward. Such was the nature of his position now. Another hole was blasted into the ground then hollowed out. These ninja, taken or willingly following Orochimaru, did not want to turn into experiments. The strong, the S-class, they attracted people in droves and even one such as Orochimaru would attract many followers to potentially gain strength from his greatness. However, no one would want to turn into a mindless beast sent out to die. Naruto knew that he was strong, stronger than most, but he wasn't strong enough. He didn't have a way to stop these men without killing them and was forced to put them out of their misery. If he were faster and more knowledgeable on chakra and the human body perhaps something could be done. The last hole was finished, and Naruto sighed. He then began to place all the dead mutated ninja into their holes. Alas, he was not able to help, so he did all he could. Give them a grave. As he finished covering the last filled hole, he stared out at the dozens of newly dug unmarked graves. I'm sorry this was your fate. This is not a fate fit for anyone. I will kill that snake, I promise. Naruto said seriously, his six eyes glowing powerfully. As Naruto walked back to Tanzuka-gai he cleared his mind and thought back to the battle. He made a frightful discovery about his current jutsu arsenal. Red, while having the most devastating output of force and destruction, was remarkably limited in use. Blue was far more useful and far more versatile despite being less outwardly destructive. The space-natured color jutsu duo were empowered by positive and negative chakra respectively. Red was the easier to figure out as it was essentially an explosion of force in a set direction. Blue was more difficult and more complex due to the way negative chakra interacted with space-natured jutsu. He'd have to think on it more and do some testing, because he is starting to think he was underestimating his creation. Not to mention infinity, it was unwieldy, and his instincts were fighting it. He was unwittingly weakening it in places as he instinctively reinforced the point of impact of a jutsu. Itachi somehow deduced that and started exploiting it to get through. Not to mention he can't use jutsu while keeping it up right now. More tests, more training, he wasn't there yet, he wasn't the strongest. It will take time, but he will get there. Not only are many visitors running from our village, but you've destroyed so much of the surroundings and buildings it could take months to get back to where we were literally yesterday. Shouted the mayor of Tanzuka-gai. Shizune looked appropriately apologetic. Jiraiya was stoically listening while Tsunade and Naruto were barely paying attention. Naruto took a breath as the man went on yet another tirade about damages and costs. Okay. Shouted Naruto with a whine, what do you want? Want us to go find them and ask them to pay for damages? He said with a raised eyebrow. We fought them outside the village and there were no casualties for civilians. That's a remarkable outcome for a battle of 5 S-class ninja and Tsunade. He said with a cocky smirk. Jiraiya subtly rolled his eyes. Tsunade glared at him before turning to the mayor. I promise that the funds to rebuild the village will be allocated as soon as we return to the Leaf Village. As the incumbent Hokage it will be among my first actions. She promised. Jiraiya nodded. We will make sure this village does not suffer any more financial harm due to the damages. Naruto stayed silent while Shizune tried to smile to reassure the mayor who could only look angry for a few more moments. The old man sighed. That will have to do. I apologize. He said wearily. It's not like my position has any right to treat you all like that. Even if you were just John and your station would be above me much less as you actually are. Thank you for protecting this village and offering support. From there it was logistical conversations between the two Sannin and the mayor on how they would approach the repairs and further developments that have been on hold since the invasion. Naruto had to admit that despite being out of the game for decades Tsunade handled it with more grace than he'd seen by anyone barring the third. By the time the four of them started making their way out of the village towards the leaf, it was late in the afternoon. Unlike their entrance to Tanzuka-gai, the exit was devoid of all life as the locals were holed up in their homes and many of the tourists were gone. Naruto felt a bit of pity for the innocent people that wanted to escape the normalcy of their lives for a fun-filled trip only for a devastating battle to take place and terrify them. This was supposed to be peace times. Such things haven't been commonplace in nearly 14 years. After a few hours of walking, they decided to make a small camp to rest. Jiraiya, seal master extraordinaire, unsealed a variety of items and food, making their night as comfortable as possible without being in a hotel. Soon they sat around a fire, with Jiraiya regaling them with hyperbolic stories of his journeys. Suddenly Tsunade interrupted him to ask Naruto a direct question. "How are you using that healing jutsu?" she demanded with steely eyes staring directly into the sunglass-covered six eyes. Naruto turned to her with a raised eyebrow. "I told you I'm powering yin nature healing jutsu like yours with positive chakra to hypercharge the healing effects." Tsunade frowned. "That's what I thought. I'll tell you this now, if you do it too much without knowing proper healing techniques, you're going to fry your brain. It's working perfectly fine. My injuries were quickly healed, and I haven't felt any pain in my head." Tsunade walked forward. Naruto frowned but allowed her to put her palm to his forehead. Jiraiya and Shizune watched silently. She activated a yellow glowing bubble of chakra and placed it over his head for a few moments. In a lightning-fast motion that took Naruto by surprise, Tsunade scratched his cheek with her nails. "What the hell, lady?" he shouted in shock as he touched his scratch and saw blood on his finger. Tsunade kept the yellow jutsu active and stared at him. "Heal." Naruto sighed, figured that was what she was getting at. He thought before activating his healing technique. Since they were very light and small injuries, it took less than a second to fix, all the while Tsunade nodded with a frown. "As I thought, you are failing to properly heal yourself. Your brain, the parts that are used to control your chakra, is far more developed than any human I've scanned barring some Uchiha, likely due to your six eyes. However, it is being strained trying to use the ratios of chakra that you are using to heal yourself. If a normal person like me or Jiraiya were to try what you were doing, our brains would melt out our nose after a few minutes." Naruto stared at the ground in surprise. He was sure that he had gotten the math right. Positive chakra was very tricky to harness and even more so to manipulate, but he was getting the result he wanted, so why? "As I said during the battle, you are not the first to look into pure positive chakra being used in a healing capacity. It is just too strong to heal something as delicate as the body, it is too volatile to keep within the body like that," elaborated Tsunade. Jiraiya decided now was time to ask the question on his mind for a while. "Naruto, you mentioned using positive and negative chakra for jutsu, but what exactly does that mean? I have a very rudimentary understanding of what those chakras are." Shizune looked like she agreed. Naruto leaned back. "It's not like fire or earth-natured jutsu, it is far deeper. So think of the chakra you use every day like water. Positive and negative chakra are more akin to the hydrogen and oxygen molecules that make up that water." Shizune frowned in thought. "So a deeper form of yin and yang chakra?" she asked. "No," Naruto said with a shake of his head. "Yin and yang are spiritual and physical aspects of chakra, yin being the spiritual part that illusions and healing make the most use of creation and formation, while yang being the physical that chakra enhancement body and clans like the Akamichi make use of power and life." He continued, "So if I were to break it down in how I use it, I'd have to tell you that the jutsus blue and red are space nature jutsu." This confused them even more, but he continued. "Think of a jutsu like a flashlight, the nature of the jutsu like space, yin, fire, or whichever, like the battery, and finally the positive and negative chakra as the charge within the battery." He didn't bother explaining how infinity was time-based chakra mixed with space-natured chakra. It was why he couldn't use it properly before his fight with Kisame. He was thinking that to halt incoming attacks he would only need time chakra, but he actually needed mostly space nature with time chakra sprinkled in. It wasn't space-time, it was space and time, which is immensely difficult. "I see now," Jiraiya said with a low rumble. "Naruto, you need to refine your knowledge of the human brain and human body as well as healing jutsu. Like before when we told you your greatest weakness, you have gaps of knowledge that don't let you take advantage of your innate comprehension of chakra. Now Naruto was surprised. I don't understand if I don't use it too much, I should be fine, right? Tsunade sighed. Right now the strain on your brain would likely be completely gone in a matter of days due to your genetic vitality. But if you were ever to truly push your healing, your mind will start to overheat and you'd slowly lose fine-tuned control of chakra. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Fine, not like I'd really need it anytime soon. Fighters like Itachi Uchiha don't grow on trees. At that the three others agreed. Naruto then shot up. Wait. Itachi managed to replicate my healing. What about him? Does this mean I won the fight and he's gonna die? Tsunade frowned. Seeing as how he has a very powerful ocular ability, his brain is likely as developed as yours, so he shouldn't die that quickly, but the fact that he managed to copy it at all means he has experience with positive chakra. Unless he is secretly a medic or doctor, I'm not sure how that would be possible. Jiraiya looked down with a frown. He had the answer to that, but that wasn't something he'd share verbally with anyone. Could that type of healing fix a disease? Asked Jiraiya out of the blue. Naruto didn't know and Tsunade hummed. It would need to be perfected and it would very much depend on the disease. Healing isn't cut and dry like that, and some are just not curable through chakra. Chakra can expedite the process, but it isn't a miracle. At the end of the day, it's the body healing itself. So no. Naruto said with a flat stare. She took too many words to answer a yes or no question. Jiraiya frowned but didn't say any more. Naruto yawned and stood up. On that note, I'm getting to bed. With that he moved to his tent while the three older ninja stayed by the fire to continue talking. He got the point from Tsunade. He was careless and tried something risky in the heat of the moment. Regardless, it was one more thing to master, and he will master it. As Naruto and the rest made their way home, the rest of the world were reeling from the news of the Leaf's newest monster. The Tsuchikage, Onoki the fence-sitter, one of the very few of the first-generation ninja left in the world and one of the three legendary pillars of the old guard. The other two being the third Hokage and Hanzo of the Salamanders. Was not happy. In front of him was one of the unmarked ninja. They are a shadow group that work independently of any of the great five nations and sold information. Such as when anytime a new S-class is announced, they were the first to challenge to gauge their skill to sell the intel. Onoki looked over the stack of paper. The report covered the entirety of the now-dubbed Battle of Tanzuka Hills. Apparently, they made use of the many dying sound ninja to conceal themselves under seals and illusions and continue to gather information. Smart. So those Leaf Ninja have a new bloodline, and a powerful one at that. The old man hummed. The distorted voice of the unmarked spoke. He is powerful, and he is young. Already contending with other S-class ninja. The price for this information is set at 10 million. Onoki waved him off as he looked over the documents and wrote some notes down before snapping his finger. Take this to the administration office. I want his face and this information in our next bingo book. He ordered one of his masked guards who sped off. Onoki growled. The Leaf was becoming a force once again. After losing the fourth, he wasn't worried about them getting greedy, but now they have Uzumaki and Tsunade back, he wasn't going to let this go. It was time to get his forces back into shape and kick up Kurotoshi's training. The winds of change were howling. Line break. The Raikage, the Berserker of Thunder, the Living Lightning Bolt, the A of the dreaded AB combo. He was considered the strongest of the Great Five Kage in the world. The Hokage and Tsuchikages being out of their prime, Kage was irrelevant to him, and the Mizukage either dead or insane. It wasn't that much of a claim anymore. Something that annoyed him non-stop. Regardless, as he paid off the unmarked ninja and glared at the information in front of him. Recall B. Bring me Darui, C, Yugito and Samui, now. He demanded to one of his assistants who scurried off with a squeak. This Naruto Uzumaki was clearly the son of his rival Minato Namikaze and that fiery red-head Kushina Uzumaki. Now he was a procession of a new bloodline and holding his own against the monsters of the shinobi world at 12. He wasn't going to hold back anymore. That meddlesome Tsuchikage had been poking at his territories for the last few years and now it was time for him to start kicking his forces into top gear. The stone and the leaf needed to be reminded that the cloud was the strongest. He furiously scribbled down some notes and handed them off. It was time Naruto Uzumaki was added to his bingo book. More money would cause more eyes to be put on him. He wanted every interested party with a knife to be going after him. Itachi Uchiha sat down in a meditative position as he activated the jutsu given to him by Pain to communicate with the rest organization for their meetings. He looked over at Kisame, who was medically knocked out, to allow him to heal. What a mess. Space distorted and he could see the colorful blurry images of his fellow Akatsuki members. Itachi turned to his leader, who was gazing at them through the legendary eyes of the sage. His staunch and absolutely stunning partner Conan stood next to him silently. Thank you all for making it on short notice. Started Pain, his baritone voice and powerful gaze unnerving Itachi slightly. I would like us all to hear the report from Itachi and Orochimaru. As I understand, Kisame is unable to join due to injuries. That got reactions out of the group. The more unstable ones laughed. Itachi knew it was his turn to speak. It was a successful assignment. Naruto Uzumaki's abilities were as Orochimaru said them to be, if not better. However, he showed no signs of the nine tails in his abilities. I estimate that if he is out of our reach for too long, it could become a group effort to bring him in. His abilities. The gravelly voice of Sasori of the Red Sands spoke up. He possesses jutsu that can manipulate space in a variety of ways and a full-body barrier that protects him from any and all harm. However, it is imperfect at the moment, as I was able to exploit some holes. Very well, Pain said. Orochimaru's intel was confirmed as legitimate, and he has been brought back into the fold. As of now, Kisame is out of commission, so Orochimaru will partner with Itachi. I want a written-out list of strengths and weaknesses for Naruto, Itachi, as I may decide to bring him in myself in the future. Continue your assignments and recon. We will reconvene in 1 month's time. Dismissed. Ordered Pain, and the many blurry silhouettes blinked out, leaving only Pain and Conan. The boy is good. The deep voice of a masked man spoke from the shadows. I observed the fight. Itachi will lose if they fight again due to his sickness and Naruto's growth rate. What do you suggest? Asked Conan. We wait and put pressure on the boy. He is in a position that will not allow him much rest. The S-class are always in demand. We must constantly apply pressure. Then when it is time, he will be brittle. The masked man's lone eye hole glowed red with a blazing Sharingan. The village hidden in the leaves was a sight for what seemed like an endless mission for Naruto. While realistically only being about a week or so, it felt like months. Naruto looked around with a laid-back expression and an easy-going smile. His sunglasses glinted in the light, and the people they passed looked at the group in awe. Tsunade was leading the charge, walking with purpose, Shizune by her side faithfully, while Jiraiya calmly walked a few steps back. Naruto rolled his eyes as he noticed the real reason. He let Tsunade lead. Unlike normal returns, they weren't headed for the Hokage Tower to report. They were going to the hospital to immediately treat the old man. Jiraiya making it a point that they needed him awake to keep certain parties off their back. Naruto tried not to let his annoyance show. He wasn't fond of the so-called High Council after their last conversation. They could all suck a rock for all he cared. Tsunade's presence caused all the people and staff at the hospital to part, allowing the group to go to their destination unimpeded. Naruto quite liked the treatment they were getting. Everyone was so reverent of the old duo that they couldn't bring themselves to speak up, much less approach them. Such legendary figures to the ordinary person or ninja. Naruto would get there soon. The two Anbu guarding the door to the third were less impressed. We're here to heal the old man, honestly use your eyes. Naruto said with a roll of his eyes, getting a thump from Tsunade and Jiraiya that he pointedly ignored. The brat is right, please open the door. Tsunade said with authority. Silently the two Anbu weaved 2 sets of hand signs and slammed their hands onto the ground, deactivation a variety of seals that covered the floors and walls. Then proceeded to usher them inside. Man, we sure took our time. Naruto said lowly at seeing the state of the third. He was noticeably smaller and weaker. His breathing was short and shallow, and the wrinkles on his face had never looked so deep. Naruto pushed down the urge to grab the old man's hand for comfort, for himself or the old man he couldn't tell. Jiraiya laid a hand on his shoulder and stood next to him silently as Tsunade got to work with Shizune. They can fix him up. Naruto said. Jiraiya turned to him. Are you asking or telling me? I'm telling myself. He answered. It was faster than Naruto thought. Tsunade placed glowing green hands over the old man's chest, then worked down all of his limbs before finishing on his head. As she went, color and life returned to the old man. He wasn't what he was before, but he didn't look half dead anymore. After only 20 minutes, Tsunade sat back in one of the chairs next to the bed. Shizune continuing her tasks of jumpstarting his body back into full order. Naruto held his breath as he watched the old man's breathing turn to normal and his face twitch a few times. After a while his eyes opened and he let out the most undignified yawn. That was quite the rest. The third said tiredly. Ah, Tsunade. It's wonderful to see you, my girl. I must have gone more overboard than I thought that you'd come back. Naruto shot forward before anyone could interrupt. You nearly killed yourself, old man. He shouted indignantly. What were you thinking? You're too old for jutsu like that. You ask your assistants to cool your soup. The third glared at him. What did I say about bringing that up in front of people? He gritted out pointedly, ignoring the disbelieving look from Shizune and the snickers from his two students. Naruto looked at him in wonder. That's what you're worried about, those two knowing you're old. They still see their magnificent sensei, don't take that from them. Jiraiya and Tsunade interrupted flatly. Who are you fooling, sensei? Hirazen's head dropped, and he went back to business. How bad? Tsunade sighed sadly. Your days of large-scale jutsu are gone. I was able to undo a lot of the damage, but you aren't going to have half the power you did before. Your coils are just too strained to put that much chakra through them without risking permanent damage. How tiresome. Muttered Hirazen. I suppose I really must find a successor. Jiraiya stepped forward. We got that covered, it will be Tsunade. It's the other reason she returned. He said while gesturing to the woman. Hirazen turned to her in surprise. Tsunade nodded. These two idiots tracked me down and convinced me to come home. Although I wouldn't have been able to do that if Naruto wasn't so reckless, it snapped me out of my issues. I still have a bit to work through, but I think I'm back in shape. She stated proudly. Hirazen couldn't have looked more proud than he did now. Under her sensei's gaze, Tsunade had a nearly unnoticeable blush that she shook off. Jiraiya smiled softly and pulled Naruto out of the room with Shizune following. Hirazen and Tsunade, who were busy catching up after decades of separation, didn't notice their departure. Naruto frowned. He had wanted to talk with the old man, but even he could acknowledge that it could wait. When they were back out in the hallway, Jiraiya turned to them. Shizune, you don't have to do anything, so you can wait here or go look around the village and reunite with your friends. Naruto, we should let the council know of our success. Naruto looked at Jiraiya for several seconds. No. Then he warped away. He'd much rather catch back up with his team than be anywhere around those old fogies.